So we will go ahead and get started. This is a special called meeting this Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. And so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. So we'll start out, go ahead with the roll call, please.
Squire Clem.
Here.
Squire Hicks.
Yes.
Squire Muse.
Here.
Squire Pennington.
Here.
Squire Saltzman.
Here.
Squire Thompson.
Here.
Squire Whitehead.
Here.
Squire Yates.
Here.
Judge Executive Tall.
I'm here. All right. We will have our invocation with Magistrate Kenny Muse and Pledge of Allegiance, Magistrate Kenny Saltzman.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this great country we live in and the privileges we enjoy. We thank you for this opportunity to gather today to review this zoning request. Give us the ability to make a fair and just decision. No matter the outcome, may this fiscal court continue to work together to make this county and community a better place to work and live. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, just thank everyone for being here today for this hearing. And just a quick, just take a second here because the agenda is short. Next will be my comments, and then we'll have the proceedings that we'll talk about here in a moment, and then we will adjourn after that. So just a few comments to make. This is a special called meeting to consider an application for an amendment to the current zoning map of Hardin County. Because it is a special zoning map to change approximately 1,030 acres located along Litchfield Road, which is US 62, and West Glendale Hodgenville Road, which is Kentucky 222, from rural R2 and convenience commercial C1 to heavy industrial I2. And this was made by Stonefield Solar Project on November 3rd, 2022. Under Kentucky law, the Planning Commission is required to hold at least one public hearing on their request, which they did on May 2nd, 2023. The Planning Commission made findings of fact from that hearing and recommended to fiscal court that the amendment be denied. That's contained in the resolution 2023, and I didn't pull that resolution number up. Okay, I'll have to get that. And let's see. No, I don't have it with me. So we all have seen it, had a copy of it. I just didn't write down the number. A request has now been made by Stonefield Solar Project that the final decision as to the map amendment be made by fiscal court, and that's what we are here for today. Public notice of today's proceedings was published in the News Enterprise. Neighboring property owners were notified by mail, and signs were posted near the location of the property as directed by Planning Commission regulations. It will take a majority of fiscal court to override the recommendation made to us by Planning Commission, and it will require that we make our own findings of fact that the zoning change is in agreement with the current adopted comprehensive plan of Hardin County in order to do that. If we do not find that the zoning change is in agreement with the current adopted comprehensive plan, then in order to override the Planning Commission recommendation, we must find that one or more of the following apply. A, that the existing zoning classification given to the property is inappropriate and that the proposed zoning classification is appropriate. Or B, that there have been major changes of an economic, physical, and social nature within the area involved, which were not anticipated in the adopted comprehensive plan and which have substantially altered the basic character of such area. Because the hearing held by the Planning Commission on May 2nd, 2023 gave the applicant, those in opposition, and the public ample opportunity to present information, it is our intention at this time to review the record that exists, to include the hearing and the exhibits introduced into the record for that hearing. We will play the recording of that hearing. We will take breaks as necessary, but don't expect to do anything today and tomorrow other than review the existing record. Remember that the purpose of today's and tomorrow's meetings is only to review the existing record. I expect the decision would be made at a later regular fiscal court meeting. Okay, at that, we are ready to view the record for the next several hours.
Seeing by the clock, it is a little after 5 o'clock, so we're a couple minutes behind getting started, but I do want to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Is there any unfinished business that we need to look at? No, sir. Okay, let's look at the consideration for the minutes presented April 18th. Y'all should have had a copy of the minutes presented to you. Are there any changes that need to be made to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented? We've got a motion and a second. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motions have been approved. So now we're going to move into new business, which is, in this case, is a map amendment.
This is one of the social map for the black council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Love. Make that part of the record, please. Okay, we're going to move on to the map amendment. The state of Kentucky requires that for any map amendment that a public hearing be held to receive testimony by those wishing to speak in favor of or in opposition to the proposed map amendment. That's what we're here to fulfill tonight. This meeting will be held in several different parts. First, staff will present what's called the staff report. That staff report will include such things as meeting notifications, vicinity maps, and any other information that they deem pertinent for the commission. Once staff has concluded their report, the commission may only question the staff. Once that has been concluded, then the floor will be opened first to those wishing to speak in favor of, followed by those wishing to speak in opposition to. If you choose to speak or to make a statement, you will first be recognized by the chair. You will come up to the podium. I will need your name and your mailing address for the record. Once that has been accomplished, you may make your statement. Once you have made your statement, I ask that you stay at the podium for questions first by the commission and then by anybody in attendance. Now, in order to ask the question, this is very important. People kind of get sidetracked on this sometimes. The time for questions is just for questions. It's not a time to make a statement. Okay? So this is for questions only. So you will simply be recognized by the chair. You'll come forward. You'll go to whichever podium is not being used, and you will ask your question. And then the answer will be given. Okay? Now, under normal meeting rules, 30 minutes is given to each side to present. However, I understand that council is present for both sides, so
Excuse me, Judge.
to entice and to
Can I interrupt for just a second?
public input, we want to extend that for 30
Hey, Aaron, can you
minutes if
stop
the
it for a
commission
moment?
agrees. The only way that this
Yes, sir.
Sorry. So I was just wondering, is there any way we can see timestamps of where things are at? So if we make notes here that we can know where to reference back to the video?
No, this is a raw footage, there is no timestamps on the raw footage.
Okay. All right.
Thanks. All right, thank you. All right, please proceed.
Extended would be for a unanimous vote from the commission. So do I have a motion that we extend for 30 minutes? I'll make a motion. Is there a second? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. 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 So that is a unanimous vote. So each side will be allowed 1 hour to speak on in favor of or in opposition to. Okay? Now, questions do not count against that hour time frame. So it is an hour to present for or against. Okay. And also, just so we all know, after those have wished to speak in favor of the zone change or the map amendment, once that has been concluded, we will take about a 10-minute break. Okay, to stretch your legs and get everything back a good frame of mind. Okay. So. This meeting will also be held in 2 separate parts. First part is the zone change. Now, I need to emphasize, everybody's here for a specific thing. I get that. We are talking about a zone change first. Does this meet the requirements for the zone change to move to the industrial zone that they are wishing? That's all the first part of the meeting is about. Depending on how that vote is, the outcome of that vote will determine whether we move on to the second part or not. If the map amendment is approved, then we would move on to the development portion of the request. Okay? So very important. 2 very different things. First, the map amendment zone change. Second, the development plan. Okay? Some other things I need to emphasize. First of all, when I do ask for questions, again, I cannot overstate this. That is a time to ask a question, not a statement. Okay? The commission will not tolerate any personal attacks. Okay? This is a very professional meeting. This will be handled very respectful of other people. So we will not attack. We just won't accept any personal attacks. Finally, if a point has been made already, there is no reason to keep on raising the same point over and over again. Okay? We heard the point. Okay? So allow other people to make their point just by making the same point over and over. It just takes time away from those who wish to make a different point. Okay, I would ask that you silence your cell phones. I just silenced mine because last time we did this, it went off. So I would ask that you silence your cell phones. We will need to get you sworn in, but before we swear you in, are there any questions as the procedure or how this will be governed? Yes. Yes.
Could you, I'm sorry, my name is Gregory Dutton. I'm counsel for the applicant here tonight. Could you go through the procedure for me just one more time? Because I spoke with counsel for the commission beforehand, and I feel like this may be slightly different than what we discussed, but I'm not entirely sure. If you wouldn't mind clarifying, just for my benefit and maybe the rest of the people, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
As far as the time frame and
Yes, sir. As far as the time, I guess one I wanted to understand is comment either in support or against, not questions, but comment in support or against. Is that included within the 1 hour for the presentations?
the comments in favor of would be within that 1 hour time period, yes.
Okay.
Questions are not.
Okay, and so comments opposed to the project would be included within opposition's 1 hour?
That is correct. That's why when it's time for questions, it's questions only based on what they have heard here.
Okay.
Okay? That's why we do not want and will not allow statements at that point in time.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
One other question. I believe that you said that those asking questions of either party may then be asked questions by the other party. Is that? I feel like I misunderstood.
Okay. When you make your statement, when you have concluded, I will ask for questions. First, the commission may question you. Then anybody in attendance may question you.
Okay.
That's it.
That's what we expected. Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. Good deal. All right, any other questions? Okay, if there's no further questions, we will need to get you sworn in and we'll begin this hearing. So, if you will, please, sir.
I'll just stand up. My name is Bill Cooper. I'm the attorney for Plain Zoning. Anybody intending to speak or think they may speak would please raise your right hand. And do you swear firmly to tell the truth, the whole
it, I will ask the staff to restate. Once they, actually, I will close the meeting before they restate. Once I close the meeting, once those hours have been, the 2 hours has elapsed, or all the people that have wanted to speak have had the opportunity to speak, either or, I will close the meeting, ask the staff to restate, and then the question will be given to the commission for their action. Any further questions? Okay, Mr. King, if you will, please.
Yes, sir. So the request before you all this evening is for a map amendment zone change. The owners of the property are the Buchanan Property Group, GB and Reba Buchanan, Ruth Jimmy N., Jimmy D. Wall, and Christopher and Dane Knight. The applicants for the proposal is Candela Renewables, doing business as Stonefield Solar Project. The zone change request is from the R2 Rural Residential Zone and the C1 Convenience Commercial Zone to the I2 Heavy Industrial Zone. The request is to allow a manufacturing use for electrical generation. The property consists of 12 parcels totaling 1,030 acres, and we are located along Litchfield Road, US 62, and Glendale-Hodgenville Road West, Kentucky 222, and Elizabethtown and Cecilia, Kentucky. So the reasons as outlined in KRS 100, the state enabling legislation regarding planning and zoning, as well as our local zoning ordinance, are going to be threefold for the approval of a zone change. That would be number one, that the proposal is in agreement with the languages of the Comprehensive Development Guide. Number two, there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature in the area involved that were not anticipated by the comprehensive plan and have substantially altered the basic character of the area. Or number three, the existing zone assigned to the property is inappropriate and the proposed amendment is appropriate. The listing of exhibits we'll enter into the record tonight include the meeting notification, land use table with the I2 heavy industrial zone specifics. I apologize, that's my diabetes. The vicinity map, the future land use map and analysis, the planning area maps and analysis, the industrial element of the comprehensive plan, the zoning map, soil maps and analysis, a plat of Buchanan Farm subdivision from 2022, the plat of Rayburn Meadows subdivision from 1999, development plan for the Vulcan Rock Quarry. We've done an analysis of the character of the area. We've got aerial photographs and drone photography, analysis of new single-family dwellings built within 1 square mile since 2012. We have the development plan for Stonefield Solar Project. We'll also enter the staff report and comprehensive plan analysis into the record. And then for the record, but not included in the PowerPoint, would be the Comprehensive Development Guide, that's the county's comp plan, the Development Guidance System Ordinance, that's our zoning ordinance. We have the developer's commitments on the project in lieu of conditions via conditional use permit. We have the development plan review comments from staff dated December 22nd, 2022. We have Candela's responses to those review comments dated March 22nd, 2023. We have the application for the zone change, the application for the development plan, a vegetation management plan, a noise assessment, a glare study, traffic impact study, bat mist net survey, sandhill crane habitat assessment, archaeological records review, economic impact report, a decommissioning plan, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers jurisdictional determination letter forms and map. We have 2 screening waiver forms that have been signed by adjoining owners, visual simulations, and then a memo from Mr. Greg Dutton regarding solar electrical generation as a manufacturing use. All right, so to hold this hearing this evening, our public notification has been threefold. A newspaper ad was ran in the News Enterprise on the weekend edition for April 22nd, 23rd. 8 signs have been posted on site since April 14th, 2023. I know we've got some complaints about the size of those signs. The size of the signs and letters are dictated by state law, and those signs comply. In the middle there is the map of the adjoiners that were notified. So first-class mailings were sent to owners. That was 12 owners, and also owners that are within 1,200 feet of road frontage, and that's per our zoning ordinance. So first up here is our land use table. So this is a table that is within the zoning ordinance that lists 91 uses and whether they're permitted, conditional, accessory, or not permitted within each individual zone. So the specifics for the heavy industrial I2 zone being sought tonight, the intent of that zone there says the zone permits industrial development given the existence of the appropriate government services and utilities. The development shall be sited and designed so as to avoid neighborhoods and residential development in light of potential nuisances or other hazards. It goes on to list the minimum lot size, road frontage, various setbacks, etc. Then there on the right of your screen for that I2 zone, there are a slew of permitted uses, conditional uses, and accessory uses. The manufacturing use there is a permitted use by right within the zone. I will note for the record, though, that solar farms are not a listed use within the zoning ordinance. So the vicinity map, we are just southwest of Elizabethtown and south of Cecilia. And again, we're at the intersection, in the vicinity of the intersection of 62 and 222. So this portion of the county in the future land use map within the comp plan is the natural resource area. Some of the specific language there for the future land use map for the natural resource area is going to say that this is some of the best soils and agricultural land in the community, and that agricultural uses are the most predominant in the area. A low-density residential use is the recommended density level. All development activity is to preserve and enhance the existing rural character of the area. It also notes that agricultural land should be preserved and agricultural operations protected and encouraged. The natural resource future land use area is also one of our 28 planning areas. And again, the language is going to be carried on there for the planning area, which is step 4 of our 4-step process. And again, there's that language. Industrial development is not recommended based on the comprehensive plan in the natural resource area. It is worth noting, though, that as a part of the project, 36.27 acres approximately do fall here in the urban area. Some of the language for the urban area states that convenience and general commercial uses are appropriate. And also then with the planning areas, it falls within what we call the Litchfield Road Corridor. And again, 36.27 acres. The recommended land use pattern for the Litchfield Road Corridor is primarily commercial development. So this is what's known as the industrial element of the comprehensive plan, and it was adopted by the Planning Commission on the 22nd of June in 2004. Our site there on the map on the right, the green star, it does fall within this Western Kentucky Parkway industrial corridor. This area essentially runs southwest from the city limits of E-Town all the way out to the county line in Eastview. And it follows 62 and the Western Kentucky Parkway. In reference to the parkway, it says, with the presence of this roadway in conjunction with the availability of land, primes this location as an industrial area which has potential for growth. So these are the 3 resolutions passed by the Planning Commission with our current comprehensive plan. Again, first approved total rewrite in 2008. Then we updated and reapproved in 2014. And we updated and reapproved in 2019. None of those resolutions mention the industrial element of the comprehensive plan. In fact, the only reference to the industrial element of the comprehensive plan is found here in planning area number 27 for the Glendale Junction. And it's basically referencing that within that industrial element from 2004, the concept of an interstate and highway overlay zone at the Glendale interchange of I-65 near the Glendale Industrial Megasite, that's where that map and that concept first originated. So this is a copy of the county's zoning map laid over top of an aerial. The 12 parcels in question this evening are outlined in red there. The neon green, if you will, is the rural residential R2 zone. The army green is going to be the agricultural zone. That is the Gray family property that got zoned ag. The blue is commercial zones there along Litchfield Road. And then the pale shade of yellow is the existing I-2 zone. So again, in 2017, via a zoning boundary interpretation, 180 some odd acres there were zoned I-2 for the Vulcan Quarry, that it was mislabeled on the zoning map in 1995. The property to the top right of your screen, that is the city limits of Elizabethtown. I'll also point out here, other than the Gray Ag Zone, the Vulcan Quarry, we have several large subdivisions in the vicinity, both Ranch Hollywood and Habersham. And the other thing to note on the map would be proximity to Cecilia Valley School. Looking at the environmental features, so again here we've turned on the county's GIS layers as far as streams, wetlands, floodplain, and sinkholes. Plus or minus approximately 71 acres of the site are in the floodplain. Again, the developer proposes to stay out of the floodplain, but just making that part of the record. This is looking at the analysis of the soils. So again, we have several different soils on the 1,030 acres. Breaking it down, approximately 86% of the 1,030 acres would either be prime farmland, farmland of statewide importance, prime farmland if drained, or prime farmland if protected from flooding, with only 14% being not prime farmland. And again, here's those definitions. I won't bother to read, but we can pull them up if asked. Again, looking at the zoning, so approximately 90.7 acres of this are already zoned I-2 and are currently leased to Vulcan Quarry. We also have 3 acres that are zoned C1 and have been there along Litchfield Road since 1995. The majority of the ground, though, is zoned R2. This is a plat of the Buchanan Farm subdivision and boundary survey that was recorded last year, and I apologize, it's kind of blurry. Essentially here, though, we just wanted to point out a couple portions of this proposal are platted. So lot 1 there's the 3 acres that's zoned commercial. Then you also have lot 3 in the center there that's 1.9 acres. And then tract A here is 26 acres on the other side of Litchfield Road. And then the Walls property was platted back in '99 as lot 1 of Rayburn Meadows there along Litchfield Road. This is the development plan, the most recent development plan for Vulcan Rock Quarry, 2017. In 2017, they received a conditional use permit because they were going to put in a portable asphalt plant. They also had conditional use permits on record from back in 1992 and 1994 for rock quarry. Again, those are pre-zoning. And then, as I mentioned previously, in 2017, with that conditional use permit for the asphalt plant, the Board of Adjustment had to do what's called a zoning boundary interpretation, and we assigned it an I-2 zone, 189.45 acres, and essentially the windshield survey and tax roll survey that were done in '95 to assign zoning to the property, the Vulcan Rock Quarry was overlooked as an industrial use. So this is looking at zoning. and looking at that existing 189 I-2 zone we have there for Vulcan Rock Quarry. So with this proposal of 1,030 acres, that would be an approximate 443% increase in this I-2 zone. Looking at analysis of single-family dwellings built from 2012 to 2022. So within 1 mile of the site, there have been 108 new single-family dwellings built. Again, that's site-built, stick-built construction. That is equivalent to 13.46% of the new homes built in unincorporated Hardin County for that time period. And again, you're picking up Ranch Hollywood, you're picking up Habersham, you're picking up a little Trotter's Ridge. I will note for the record there that Ranch Hollywood's a lot of double-wide manufactured homes, so those aren't even being counted in this total. This is strictly stick-built construction. Looking at the character within 1 mile, so again, 942 total parcels, including Stonefields project, 9,430 total acres. We're approximately 10-acre average parcel size. And then again, looking industrial zone land in the entire county, the unincorporated part of the county. Currently, I-1, we have 368 acres. Currently, I-2, we have 3,449 acres. So again, this proposal would be increasing industrial zone land in the county by 30%. This is just going to be a series of drone photos. Here we're at the entrance to Vulcan Rock Quarry, and we're looking back towards the creek in Elizabethtown. Here we'll be looking towards Cecilia. Looking to the northwest, I guess, and that would be 62 there on your screen. Same view. Here we'd be looking west. 222 would be there running through the middle of your screen. Here we're looking towards Glendale, kind of getting a portion of the quarry. Zooming around. And then looking back 62 towards Cecilia and towards the water tower. That would be Ranch Hollywood there on the other side of the creek. And the Walls home would be there on the left-hand side of your screen. And that would be looking over most of the project, getting the intersection of 62 and 222. So again, staff has reviewed the development plan submitted by Stonefield Solar. This is just kind of the overall site development plan illustrating the solar arrays, as well as both jurisdictional and non-jurisdictional wetlands and streams and floodplain. Again, just an overview they have of environmental considerations, and that over top the narrative. And that's all I've got. Happy to answer any questions for you guys.
Okay, thank you, Mr. King. Questions? No? Okay. At this point in time, I will open the floor up to those wishing to speak in favor of. But before I do that, I have instructed, just so everybody knows, I have instructed the overflow room if they have questions or comments on how they can participate in this as well. So we have included the overflow room with this meeting. So I will now open up the floor to those wishing to speak in favor of the applicant. Okay, if you will give me your name and address, please.
Good evening. Rick Ferreira, 2143 Juliet Avenue, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Good evening. Aubrey Muse, 744 Brock Road, Brownieville, Kentucky, 40162.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. King, staff, members of the public, those in the overflow room as well. I don't know where that camera is. I'm Rick Ferreira. I'm the project lead, the project manager for the Stonefield Solar Project.
And I'm Aubrey Muse. I've been working closely with Rick as a co-manager on this project since January 2022. And as you know, tonight, the commission is considering Stonefield Solar's application for a zoning map amendment to redesignate the land on which the Stonefield Solar project is sited from R2 to I2. In addition, we're also asking the commission to consider our proposed development plan, and tonight we'll demonstrate why you should approve both of those things.
We had understood the rules allowed for 30 minutes for us to present our case. We understand that's been extended to 60. It includes supportive public comment. We intend to take about 30 minutes of that time now. I will describe the project, the responsible nature of its siting, the thoughtful design that has gone into it. Our counsel, Greg Dutton, will describe the relevant law. And then my teammate Aubrey will address some misinformation that has been present in the community for a while and provide some relevant facts.
So at this time, I'd like to ask members of the Candela team, including our internal team, our consulting experts, and our landowners, and anyone here tonight in support of solar, to please stand. Thank you all for being here.
So I will start describing, as I said, the responsible nature of the siting of this project and its thoughtful design. I have a clicker in my left hand and a pointer in my right. The pointer does not show up on the screen. All right, audible. I want to start with the big picture. This map has over 5,300 dots on it. These represent solar projects, grid-tied, utility scale, that are operating in the United States today. What's not shown are the over 3 million households that have chosen to put solar panels on their rooftops. The point is, solar is not something new. Solar is a proven, a safe, a bankable, a popular, and a responsible technology. With this context, that there are thousands of solar power plants operating in this country right now, millions of panels on rooftops, and hundreds of millions of total solar panels currently, today, operating safely, efficiently, and responsibly, I'd like to talk about the Stonefield Solar Project, for which we requested a map amendment and approval of our development plan. As Mr. King shared, this is the property. It's located southwest of town, south of Cecilia. We're requesting to rezone these 1,030 acres. They're shown in green. They're currently owned by the Cannon family, the Knight family, and the Wall family. They're used for a variety of purposes, and they represent less than 1% of the cropland in Hardin County. A key feature of the map is US Highway 62, bisecting the site. That's one of the two roads used for access and egress from the site. The other is Kentucky State Highway 222. There are no county roads used for ingress or egress from the site. Now I'd like to talk about the existing features. These things are true today. They demonstrate the responsibly sited nature of this development. Starting at the top, there's a white line representing the Louisville-Paducah Short Line Railroad. As many of you are aware, there are tree lines along that right-of-way. Moving clockwise, we see a yellow area representing Roots Creek and the tree mass existing today around it. In this area, the thickness of that tree mass ranges from 100 to over 1,000 feet. That's true today. Continuing clockwise, we come to the orange area. That's the Vulcan Materials Quarry, as Mr. King described. It's currently zoned industrial, and it demonstrates that decisions have been made that industrial land use is appropriate in this immediate area. On either side of the orange, you see red lines representing signed screening waivers requested by individuals who farm the adjoining ground. Those were requests for us as the developers of the Stonefield Solar site not to add any new or augment any existing tree lines in order to avoid competing with crops. We're happy to do that. Finally, in black, you see existing tree stands or tree lines. Those are around, I would say, the 9 o'clock side, the left side of the site. They're also present in the interior of the site, including on either side of Highway 62. Those tree stands exist today. The documents we've submitted into the record, including our development plan, our developer commitments, and our landscape plan, commit us to leave them in place. I'll take a minute to zoom in. About 2 months ago, March 8th of this year, I stood, and Aubrey was there as well, in the north corner of this site. I took a picture, the one on the screen. 555 feet in front of that picture, about a football field and a half, is a house. I'll let the commission draw their own conclusions as to whether that home would be impacted visually by the presence of solar panels where I was standing when I took that photo. I'll just add that this photo was taken when there was no vegetation on the trees. That's when they would be their least effective from a visual screening perspective. Moving again to, in a clockwise direction, this is one of Mr. King's drone photos. You can see the blue arrow placing the photo in context of the existing yellow vegetation mass around Roots Creek. Zooming in again, and this is back in the north corner of the site, we've drawn a circle. It encompasses everything within 2,000 feet of our northernmost proposed solar panels. There are 13 homes within 2,000 feet of the proposed generation equipment. All of them are on the other side of Roots Creek in this area. Roots Creek provides an existing buffer of vegetation between 220 and 740 feet in thickness. Moving again. Clockwise, we're back to Ranch Hollywood. Here there are more homes. We've done the same thing. We've drawn a circle. It encompasses all homes within 2,000 feet of the nearest proposed solar panel. There are 52 homes here. To Mr. King's point, this may only include stick-built homes. They're all on the other side of Roots Creek as well. In this area, Roots Creek has a wider range of vegetation. It ranges from 100 to over 1,000 feet. I'll note that only one of these 52 homes is on property that adjoins Stonefield Solar Project. All the rest are buffered by either Doug Reed's farm field or the Buchanan's farm field. We worked with the Buchanans and with the county to subdivide that farm field out of a larger parcel so that Stonefield Solar does not cross Roots Creek. This map merges all of those existing natural and man-made buffers into a single yellow color. There are some gaps, particularly down around 222. How have we addressed those? We've done so with a thoughtfully designed landscape plan. This has been submitted into the record. This is binding. This is what we will do. The white areas that have been added to this map are the areas that we propose to landscape. In total, we're proposing 3,400 new plants, 1,400 new trees, and 2,000 new shrubs. That's 1,400 plus 2,000 to get a total of 3,600. This slide provides a little bit more detail on neighbors. We've added an icon representing the closest home in every direction. In some cases, particularly Ranch Hollywood, closest, not the only home in the area. There are 8 icons. Those that are shown in bold with the words existing buffer indicate homes that already today enjoy one of the buffers that I previously described. There are 3 that don't have any bold writing. We're proposing landscaping to screen those. You can see them with a green outline. They're all along the south side of the property. The key point here is that today, under current conditions, there are 2 neighbors who live within 1,500 feet of this property who have an unobstructed view of the property. The closest of these lives 749 feet away. That's distance from our proposed panels to their house. That's about 2.5 football fields. And as a matter of public record, this property was purchased in November of 2021. At that time, the individual was well aware of and had been in conversation with us about the proposed Stonefield Solar project for over a year. This is the landscape plan. It says exactly what I shared on the other slides. It's what we've committed to. It's what we will do. It's an engineering drawing, a little bit hard to make out. That's why I didn't use it on the previous slides, but what it says is exactly the same, and I believe you all have it, and it's a matter of record. Now let's talk about solar panels. You see the same green outline here. This doesn't focus on the extensive existing natural or man-made buffers around the site or our proposed landscaping, or any of the things we've done to mitigate impact on neighbors. What this focuses on is where the panels will be and how many there will be. There are 676 acres fenced in. Those are the dark green or the solid green areas in the interior of the project site. They're split across 11 different fenced-in islands that again total 676 fenced-in acres. Within these fenced-in areas, there are 174 acres of solar panels by surface area. That's what you get when you multiply the length by the width by the number of panels. Let me show you how this works. This figure zooms in on 2 representative areas of our layout. On the top left, you see one of the most efficient places to put solar panels. This is where we can place them exactly where the engineers want them in the most efficient arrangement. In situations like this, 40% of the ground is covered by panels. That's best case. That's what you see on the top left. But a lot of the site isn't like this, and this is typical for a solar project. A lot of the site has constraints. So what you see on the bottom left is the East Kentucky Power Transmission Corridor that runs up to the Vulcan Quarry, right through this site. Solar panels sit on tables, on trackers, that only come in certain lengths. If you don't have that much open space, you can't put one there. That's why you see these triangles of open space. And this happens a lot. It also happens in other cases where you have natural resources or other constraints that you avoid and preserve. This happens so much so that over the entire 1,030-acre site, you get the number I referenced earlier, 174 acres of solar panels by surface area. This leaves a great deal of open space on the site. That open space allows for a number of activities to continue. Vegetation continues to grow. Wildlife continues to circulate. Agriculture continues to happen, as does employment. These things can all coexist with modern, responsibly sited, and thoughtfully designed solar plants. The 6 photos here represent 6 of the over 5,000 dots on the map that I started with. They're in Texas, California, Georgia, and here in Kentucky. The Candela team, our company, was involved in 2 of these. They are representative of what Stonefield Solar will look like after it's constructed. With that, I'd like like to pass it off to our counsel, Greg Dutton, to talk a little bit about the law.
Thank you, I appreciate the heads up. As Rick said, my name is...
Your name and address, please.
Yep, absolutely. My name is Gregory Dutton. I'm an attorney with the law firm Cross Brown Todd. My home base is 400 West Market Street, Louisville, Kentucky. And I have been counseled. No, sir, this is my 30 minutes. You'll keep your question on yourself, please.
This is mine. Yes, sir.
Chairman, let me,
Judge.
that's, yeah, so the cross-examination portion of people speaking in favor would be after the conclusion of the applicant's 60-minute time.
Okay. Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. So, as I said, my name is Gregory Dutton. I'm counsel for the project. I've been working with the project for several years, and we're very pleased to be here tonight before you speaking about the project. We appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you and the time that you committed to this. I know it's a significant time commitment, a lot of effort to be here. I have several things to say sort of about how the project benefits the community and how it meets the legal requirements, but unfortunately I need to start with talking a little bit about the staff report. So we received the staff report for the first time last night at 5:38 p.m., so we haven't had a lot of time to digest it. We were frankly stunned by one of the things that was in the staff report. It was something that we had never heard from staff over the last several years that we've been working with it. That's this issue about the Western Kentucky Parkway Industrial Corridor. This project was in part cited where it is because of the existence of the Western Kentucky Industrial Parkway Corridor. It was something that was relied on the project, and when we talk about it tonight, you're going to hear a lot about that. The first time that we had heard that staff's opinion is that the approved Western Kentucky Parkway Industrial Corridor was removed from the comprehensive plan was last night when we were reading the staff report. First of all, I want to say that we disagree with the staff's interpretation on this, and I understand that's their opinion, and they're very professional in this, but we have to disagree respectfully with where they've come down on this. At no point in any of the future comprehensive plans or any of the comprehensive plans that were promulgated after 2004 was the industrial elements actually removed. Particularly, this Western Kentucky Parkway Industrial Corridor was never removed. This, as far as we can tell, was maintained through the following comprehensive plans and the updates in 2014, 19, and 2008. As evidence of this, I want to point you to the Commission's own website. So this here is the industrial element portion of the Hardin County Commission's website, the Comprehensive Development Guide. You'll see in the bottom half of that slide, it talks about the Western Kentucky Parkway Industrial Corridor. On page 14 of that same PDF that talks about the Western Kentucky Industrial Parkway Corridor, it says right there in the middle of it, the availability of land primes this location as an industrial area which has potential for growth. This was taken to heart by my client and assumed that this was part of the plan. At no point did we suspect that this was ever removed from the comprehensive plan, nor do we believe that it actually was in any sort of legal fashion. Paragraph 2 of our application supports this. Paragraph 2, this is not somewhere buried in the 1,000-page application. This is paragraph number 2. The project is entirely within the Western Kentucky Parkway Industrial Corridor, which was included in the industrial element delineated in the 2019 revision to the Hardin County's Planning for Growth Comprehensive Development Guide. We didn't bury this in the application. We didn't assume that this was the reality. We based our application on this. Over the course of the last several years, there have been 10 specific meetings where this could have been raised by staff. In November, we filed our original application with the staff. That includes that provision that we just cited to. In December, we received from staff comments. 342 comments on that application. Notably absent from any of those comments was any opinion that the Western Kentucky Industrial Parkway Corridor had been removed from the comprehensive plan. Sort of the way I'm summarizing this here is there was plenty of opportunity to raise this, and at no point was this raised before 5:38 last night. So let me talk a little bit about what this raises in my mind. Mr. Cooper will be familiar with this term, and it's estoppel. Estoppel is fundamentally the concept that you cannot allow someone to rely on information that you know or believe to be true. Estoppel can raise legal issues. It can raise potential relief for a plaintiff, such as injunctive relief and monetary damages. This is frankly an issue that we don't believe needs to be included in this proceeding tonight, and we're very surprised to see that staff wanted to include it. So let me propose to you options that I believe that you have before you. First, I think that you can assume that there has been an error in the staff's opinion and that they were incorrect in what they said about the Western Kentucky Industrial Parkway corridor not being a part of the comprehensive plan. If you do assume that staff is correct, then I think you create legal issues that simply do not need to be in this proceeding. If you assume, as I do, that the Western Kentucky Industrial Parkway corridor is still part of the comprehensive plan, then you can simply ignore staff's opinion on this, factor into your consideration of our application that this project is properly sited within a proposed industrial corridor, and then when you vote tonight, keep that in mind when you're voting on the applicant's application. With that said, let me turn to what it is that I originally intended to talk about this evening. That is what is before this commission. This commission has an interesting opportunity tonight to consider a project that is substantially different than the two solar projects that have come before you in other months. Number one, this project is proposed to be zoned as I-2. That is fundamentally different than the other two projects that you have seen. Because it is zoned to be I-2, there is a permissive use by right under your ordinance for manufacturing use. Manufacturing use, as I'll speak to later, includes generation of electricity. Because there is a permissive use by right, there is no CUP attached to this application, so you can remove those issues from consideration tonight. What that means is you essentially have two relatively simple questions before you. Number one, does the proposed map amendment comply with the comprehensive plan? And number two, does the development plan demonstrate that the project will be constructed and operated in compliance with the zoning ordinance? These are the two questions that are really at the heart of the matter tonight. These questions are guided by both your ordinance and the state statutes, but I just want to make sure that we understand that really the questions tonight are relatively simple. So let me talk a little bit about the map amendment. As we said, we have requested to zone these projects. This project is I-2. We also believe that the project site is entirely within the Western Kentucky Parkway Industrial Corridor. As the OHM Comprehensive says, that is primed for industrial growth. This corridor already includes other industrial activities such as Vulcan Materials, DNT Log, and Lumber Sawmill, the Bing Brothers Corridor. As I'll discuss shortly, because generation of electricity by solar facilities is considered a manufacturing use in Kentucky, it is appropriate to zone this project as industrial. Our application demonstrates that the proposed map amendment complies with the comprehensive plan. Number two, let me talk about the development plan. Section 6 of the ordinance says the purpose of the development plan is to assure that the project will be constructed and operated in compliance with the zoning ordinance and the intent of the comprehensive plan. Under the ordinance, manufacturing as a permissive use on property zoned is I-2. Under today's law, which is what we're talking about today, is today's law, not the law as it may be in 6 months, a year, 2 years, but today's law and today's comprehensive plan, manufacturing use includes the generation of electricity. There are a long line of cases before the Kentucky Supreme Court that have considered this issue and decided unanimously in each one of those decisions that manufacturing includes the generation of electricity. Now, our opponents will tell you that those are limited strictly to tax implications, but that simply misses the point. The cases that have come before the Kentucky Supreme Court were in tax situations. Tax situations regularly arise to the Kentucky Supreme Court because practicing before the Kentucky Supreme Court is incredibly expensive. You have to spend years and lots of lawyer fees before you get there. So tax implications are probably one of the most frequent issues that come before the Kentucky Supreme Court. Now, the Kentucky Supreme Court, if it wishes to limit a decision on a subject to a particular issue, it does so, and it has in many other arenas. Notably, in none of these decisions did the Kentucky Supreme Court limit its interpretation of manufacturing use to include electricity generation to the tax arena. Thus, any situation in the Commonwealth where manufacturing use is being considered, it must include the generation of electricity. In support of that, I have 2 points. Number one was that the state statute regarding IRBs was recently changed to include specifically that manufacturing use means electricity generation. Furthermore, the Kentucky Attorney General has weighed in on this particular subject and stated industrial buildings, because they're used to manufacture electricity, and electricity constitutes a commercial product, he found that manufacturing use includes the generation of electricity. Hence, it is appropriate to zone this property as industrial, and it is a permissive use by right to generate electricity if zoned as industrial. In closing, I want to reiterate 2 points. And that is that there is very simple questions before you tonight. Now, there are a lot of people in the community and a lot of people in the Commonwealth that are obviously watching this tonight, which makes your jobs even more important to keep down to the most basic fundamental issues that you'll have to vote on tonight. Does the proposed map amendment comply with the comprehensive plan? I think our presentation, our application demonstrate that the answer is yes. And number 2, does the development plan demonstrate that the project will be constructed and operated in compliance with the zoning ordinance? Again, I think our presentation and our application materials demonstrate that the answer is yes. Again, I appreciate your time this evening, and at this point I'll turn it over to Aubrey Muse.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Rick. Hi, commissioners. Hi, public. I have something in common with many of you who are here tonight, being that I love Hardin County. I was born here. I was raised on my family's cattle farm. I graduated from Central Hardin just down the road. I also went on to get a 4-year degree in environmental science and policy, where I focused on renewable energy integration into the grid. Since 2019, Candela has been actively working in Hardin County, and I was thrilled to be able to come home to start my professional career with them. I was even more excited to be able to engage and interact with my community, where we're developing this benchmark-worthy solar project. This could be another economic development success story for Hardin County. Aside from that, solar photovoltaics are arguably the only industrial use of this land, which will allow for continued agricultural use. This project is responsibly sited, incredibly well designed, and thoughtfully designed for utilizing the land as a dual-use development. This project is an opportunity for our community to position itself at the cutting edge of agrivoltaics research. That's the co-location of electricity generation and agriculture. We've committed to preparing an agrivoltaics initiative and have been engaged with many stakeholder groups in the community to identify agricultural activities that can continue on the site. One example, as Rick mentioned before, being sheep grazing. Sadly, a great deal of misinformation in Hardin County is threatening this opportunity and the benefits it will bring. It's also threatening future opportunities and the freedoms of landowners. That's something that should alarm all of us. An incredibly small minority of the 112,000 residents of Hardin County have chosen to make damaging, yet unfounded claims against solar energy and against our project. And despite appearances, this group is not a local grassroots organization. They're a faction of a nationally organized anti-solar group, which has been orchestrated by DC political operatives. It's my hope that the commission will discern through the noise of the small anti-solar constituency that's rooted in outsider influence, and will base its decision tonight on facts and accurate information. And I want to share a few of those facts with you now. To decommissioning. I'm young, and some of the people in this room are young, and at the end of this project's life, 40 years from now, I plan to be around for it. The last thing I want is for this solar project to be left abandoned and deteriorating. And thankfully, there are several layers of protection to ensure that that doesn't happen. First, there's a legally binding obligation in our executed real estate agreements to return the land to its original condition. This same requirement will be contained in the permits that we must secure from Hardin County and the state. Construction can't begin until the project posts a bond large enough to fully cover our decommissioning costs as estimated by a licensed third-party engineer. The state of Kentucky recently strengthened these requirements in House Bill 4, which passed 2 months ago in March. Our project's decommissioning plan has already been created and was submitted as part of our application to Hardin County. Solar panels are also extensively tested to ensure they're non-toxic and safe, and I wouldn't stand behind this project in my community if they weren't. If you'll remember in Rick's presentation, he presented you a map showing thousands of operational solar facilities across the country. These facilities represent thousands of permits and thousands of issuing authorities that have all approved the same technology for use in their communities. Our cell phones, our TVs, our computers, modern farming combines. These are just a few examples of things we interact with that contain many of the same safe, proven, and reliable semiconductor and electronics material as solar panels, which are stable, contained, and non-hazardous. The Environmental Protection Agency's Toxicity Characteristics Leaching Procedure, commonly called the T-clip test, is the accepted method for proving this. The T-clip examines panels for any hazardous leaching and includes testing methodologies such as grinding a panel up into little pieces using diamond bit drills and industrial water grinders. You then bathe those shards in acetic acid solution and test it to see if anything leaches out. Solar panel chemistry is so stable that they consistently pass the T-clip. The T-clip is more strenuous than anything panels will go through in their natural operational life. We just finished development on a project in Texas, and the panels ordered already have documentation that they passed the T-clip. This will be true of the panels we use at Stonefield as well. Solar panels are a non-toxic waste by definition of passing the T-clip. They can also be recycled. There are several active solar recycling facilities in the U.S., including by a company called First Solar, which many of our team members used to work at. Another company called Solar Cycle, based in Odessa, Texas, has a fully operational solar recycling facility. We know them, and we're in discussions with them right now to negotiate a recycling services agreement. Both our company and our industry are committed to rooting out abusive practices in the supply chain. This community has heard many concerns about panels being the result of Chinese slave labor. Over 75% of panel imports in the U.S. in 2022 were actually from countries other than China, countries like Thailand, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Vietnam. You can't import Chinese solar panels into this country unless you have documentation proving that they don't come from regions of China where slave labor occurs. This was a direct result of the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, commonly called the UFLPA, which passed into law in December 2021. We already have panels for late-stage projects we're developing in Texas and Ohio. Those panels came from JA Solar's Vietnamese factories, which purchased the required polysilicon from American mines. And we know that because of the documentation required by the UFLPA. Utility procurement of solar energy. Rest assured that under FERC Order 872, federal law does not require that utilities buy any solar energy from our project. You can't read it, but I won't get into the acronym jargon on the bottom of the screen, but the point I'm making is that Stonefield Solar is a 120 megawatt project, which is much larger than the previous or current thresholds for utility purchase obligations. No one is going to buy this power if they don't want it. Finally, I'll say that Hardin County is growing. That's something that we're all acutely aware of. Other developments such as factories, commercial centers, residential housing, all of these result in permanent conversion of natural and agricultural land. This project gives this community the unique opportunity to reap its benefits with the opportunity to retain agricultural capacity. At the end of the project life, the landowners will be able to use the land as they wish. And speaking of landowners, it should go without saying that property owner rights are a core value in this country and hopefully in this county. Tonight, our landowners also deserve a chance to have their voice heard. So at this time, I would like to invite up one of them, Mr. Drew Augenstein, to speak.
My name is Drew Augenstein. I live at 1620 Griffith Avenue, Owensboro, Kentucky. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I am a landowner by marriage to Susan Buchanan, who's here. We also have Jeff Buchanan, Debbie Buchanan Ward, Kristen Buchanan Fipke, her husband Scott Fipke, and my nephew Paul Fipke. And we are the owners of the property known as the Buchanan Farm. And as Aubrey indicated, it is a fundamental right of ownership that we should be able to reap an economic value of our land. We have determined the highest and best use for our land would be to do this project with Candela and Stonefield. Susan and Kristen and Jeff and Debbie's parents years ago determined that the best use of the land was to allow Vulcan to come in and take 105 acres and mine it for rock with no opposition. I know Mr. King said that was prior to any zoning, but it is in existence today. We have a lease agreement with them still in effect that is up for renewal. And if the corridor doesn't exist, am I to tell them that they can't expand their footprint? That they may be excluded from expanding their footprint? So, the parts of this, another thing is, we are leasing the property to Stonefield and Candela. This property will stay in the family, and that's the way we wanted it from the beginning. Parts of this land, pardon me, parts of this land has been in the family for over 130 years. And we have binding and enforceable covenants in our lease agreement with them that force them to return the land back to the way they found the land as it sits today. Excuse me, I'm reading from my notes here. And we've been also working, as they indicated prior to, with Stonefield to mitigate any of the impacts, such as not crossing Roots Creek. Thank you. And most recently, we've worked with Candela and the Hardin County School System to work with them on access to the property behind us so that they can build a new school, access off of the main road there. So Stonefield is a good neighbor. They would be good for the community. I believe they're working extensively with the school, and someone else can go in to more depth of what they've been doing with the school. But the fact that our land does not exist in this Western Kentucky corridor is news to us. We've never received any information that our land is not in that corridor any longer. In fact, a few weeks ago, I spoke with a magistrate who, in the first 2 seconds of the call, said, I was told you all were selling your land to the Industrial Foundation. They've got big plans for that land out there. I didn't know you all were part of the solar project. So much so that I've got a letter here, which I'm sure you all work very closely with the Industrial Foundation, that was entered into with the family, dated December 26, 2018. First sentence, as we've discussed, we are interested in purchasing the above property, which was our property. So how does the Industrial Foundation enter into an agreement with us if it's not in the industrial corridor? That would be, I don't know how that works. So I think you all work pretty closely with the Industrial Foundation, or I would think you would.
So we don't have that as part of the
Absolutely, absolutely. What did I do?
I wrote to Bank Candela's presentation, exhibit KK. And it will make your letter from the Industrial Foundation to the Buchanan paper and family exhibit held that we'll take that right there. But yeah, we do still read it. You're good. If you're ready to
No, I don't need to read anything else. Next one.
Is that a copy, or do we need to make a copy?
I mean, I think we've got copies of that. I'm not quite sure where the original is, but yes, yeah, and it's signed by Jeff, Debbie, and Kristen. Kristen signed on behalf of our group family.
Being clear, this doesn't appear to be a letter. There's nothing on here that says that it's for games for the industrial power.
Yeah, Rick signed.
Sign, right, entry letter.
Yes. They were coming on the land to do soil testing and other things. The point of it is it was in 2018. I don't think Rick would enter into an agreement if the land wasn't in the corridor. At least I would hope not. And again, along those same lines, if we don't exist in the Western Kentucky industrial corridor, it's going to be massive destruction to the property value in that area. I mean, we all know what's happening here in Hardin County. You clearly have plans for that area still on your website to develop as an industrial area. And like I said before, we have an agreement with Vulcan Materials. You know, we would really like to know what we were supposed to do with that when it comes up for renewal, because they requested to maybe take some additional land. I believe in closing, I would just thank you all for your time. I know some other people want to speak. I don't want to take anybody else's time, but I would respectfully urge the commission to please reject the recommendation from the staff report. I thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, could we just get a time check, please?
Time check.
9 minutes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Rick Ferrer, 2043 Juliet Avenue, St. Paul, Minnesota. I don't know if I need to say that each time I come up.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. I do have it memorized. Just wanted to confirm on the format here. We'd like to reserve 5 minutes. I believe, if we understood correctly, that means there are 15 minutes that we can take now, 15, 16 minutes for supportive public comment.
You have 20 minutes, so if you'd like to reserve 5, I will allow that.
Great. That's a little different than what we expected. Okay. We just want to make sure that you'll all cut us off at the end of the 15 so we can be sure the public gets to speak, but we get the 5 at the end.
Sure.
Great. Thank you.
Now, are you finished with your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. At this time, I'm going to allow for questions based on your presentation, just because when people start to come up, it's going to get really muddy, just to kind of keep this clean. So what I'm going to ask for, and anybody that has presented, if you don't mind, maybe come forward and step to the side so that you're not, depending on what question is asked as to who they direct it to, you won't have to stand back up and walk back and forth. So if you have presented anything, just kind of stand to the side here. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, a point of order. We actually have several subject matter experts here with us. So what we had discussed with staff and with your council was to allow people to ask questions, and then we were going to designate the right person to answer the question. So we've got a lot of people who have a lot of information.
I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So you can, but if you kind of get them ready to come up to where
Make it as efficient as we can.
Make it as efficient as possible.
And I just want to clarify, we're allowing questions now up there. We stopped the clock.
The clock has stopped.
Right.
All right. This is a question that does not count against y'all's time for a presentation.
That's what we understood.
For that.
Any comments or presentations say it's not equal time, both sides. Stop the clock now.
Understood. Thank you both.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now we're going to open the floor up to questions that are pertaining to or germane to what we just heard. So, and if you're in the overflow room and you do have a question, I would ask that you go ahead and make your way over here too so I can see you. If not, we're going to go ahead and proceed. Okay.
Chairman, thank you.
Yes.
I'd start with forever.
Yes.
I can ask you a question. I'll let you take.
Okay, I need your name and address, please, sir.
David Broderick,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Broderick.
If you took the phone, yes, man, on the way of life. Forever, I've listened to both your comments and comments of council, and let's get past the argument about court for a second. Is there some reason that you dispute in the report from the staff that this is in the natural, all this property is in the natural resource area? Now, you've been here for 3 years doing this.
It's definitely within the natural resource area. I think that's very clear. It's also within the industrial park corridor, and we relied on both of those things to design a project that we think meets both uses.
Mr. Brother, you got it. I'll do that. Excuse me, tonight. I just want to make sure I'm on my own now.
Yes.
Okay. So when we talk about the natural resource area, it should be a low-density residential use for the natural resource area. This is not a low residential use, is it? This is in fact an industrial use.
We are requesting an industrial use, yes. It would be a very passive, non-invasive use of the land.
And it says all development activities should preserve and enhance the existing rural character of the area. Obviously, you're changing the character of the area, aren't you?
Sorry, let me just ask a question. Am I addressing you, Mr. Broderick, or should I address my responses to the commission?
Mr. Broderick, you'll address me as well.
Yes. Oh,
okay.
Okay. Do it that way.
Okay, yeah. Yes. Now you may answer the question. So
I apologize. Can you repeat that?
that's right.
The question was this, is the development activity should preserve and enhance the existing rural character of the area, reading from the natural.
Mr. Broderick, please hold your mic up a little bit. There you go.
I'm reading from the natural resources area. I'll get used to it. Excuse me, sir. Now, how does an industrial zone with the solar panels conform with that?
We think it's in conformance with what we presented in our presentation, particularly the Western Kentucky Parkway Industrial Corridor.
In the staff report, they said there were 108 homes within 1 mile of the area, and you gave us a figure of 13 and then 52. Do you dispute the number of homes that are within the area?
I don't dispute Mr. King's work at all. I was referencing within a 2,000-foot boundary and describing the extensive existing screening along the creek between us and those homes.
And when you talked about the solar panel operations, I've seen a lot of things that y'all presented here today. Your argument is you thought this was all within the industrial core, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, you were aware, have you been here in E-Town for 3 years?
I've been here frequently, but I live in Minnesota.
Okay, well, that's what I thought.
I've been here enough to answer the questions, though.
Yes, and in being here, you've had a chance to see all the comprehensive plans as they've been amended in 2008, 2014, and 2019. Have you not?
I've done a lot of that reading out of my basement office in Minnesota, but yeah, I'm familiar with them.
And none of those had anything to do about expanding the industrial corridor, did they?
Each one of them referenced the industrial element, which included the Western Kentucky Parkway Industrial Corridor.
And the only thing that was ever referred to was the exit at Glendale, or the development at Glendale, the industrial site of Glendale, isn't it?
I think in the section you're talking about, it referenced the existence of the industrial element and mentioned no amendments to it.
As it relates to this 1,030 acres, you would agree that it is a 443% increase of industrial land in the area to be rezoned.
Yes.
And the only thing that's industrial around it was never really zoned by a body like this, where the public got to put input. It was created before there was planning and zoning in Hardin County.
My understanding is the industrial zoning was assigned in 2017.
And it was not assigned by a vote, it was assigned by a decision because it pre-existed planning and zoning. Is that correct?
I think it was decided by the Board of Adjustment. I don't know about the procedure they used.
You helped do this application, is that correct?
Yes, I'm responsible for it.
Yeah. Where did you find in the current rules and regulation of planning and zoning in Hardin County anything about solar panels?
I think our counsel, Mr. Dutton, addressed the solar panels as electricity generation or manufacturing use.
Is there anything that you found in the industrial zone that mentioned solar panels?
Manufacturing use.
Manufacturing
in
and
the land use
solar
table.
panels specifically, because that's what you're talking about. This just isn't manufacturing. You're putting in solar panels.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, anything that you found that complied with that at all?
The land use table that permits manufacturing.
So when we talk about being in conformity with the comprehensive plan, you have to convince planning and zoning that it's within the comprehensive plan that manufacturing will include solar panels, which has been excluded by law here in Hardin County. Are you aware of that?
There were a couple questions there. I am aware the burden is on us as the applicant to convince the commission of our case.
Are you aware Fiscal Court has chosen not to act since a court decision in this case about allowing solar panels in Hardin County?
I'm aware the fiscal court hasn't taken action on that topic, yes.
And it was decided by a circuit judge at that time?
Yes.
In terms of the project itself, when we've seen what your application says, let me ask you this. Have you gone to the Public Service Commission yet?
If I could add, sorry, I don't do this a lot. I think to your last question about the fiscal court's action since the circuit court ruling, I don't have the dates of the circuit court ruling exactly right, but I believe we've been talking about this approach, the industrial map amendment with the manufacturing use since well before that circuit court ruling.
When did you make your application? Maybe I missed that.
November 2022.
Okay, so that was way after the decision, wasn't it, sir?
It was also way after we began the discussions with the county.
And anywhere in the rules and regulations of planning and zoning in Hardin County, did you see a definition for Hardin County, who makes its own rules, about the definition of manufacturing?
Sorry, I didn't follow that.
Did you see anything that defined what manufacturing is?
I've seen a number of materials, including those that Mr. Hutton presented, that define manufacturing.
Not what Mr. Dutton said, somebody else in Kentucky said.
Mr. Broderick, I'm going to ask you, face me if you don't mind.
It's hard to do.
I understand that you're cross-examining each other, and I get that, but I'd much rather the questions be directed here and you answer here.
Did you see anything in the Hardin County rules that allowed solar panels to be part of manufacturing?
We relied on the manufacturing use listed in the use table under industrial zoning.
Well, it just said manufacturing, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
Did it include solar panels?
I believe so, yes. Did it say that? No. But we relied on the argument that Mr. Hutton elaborated.
And the argument you're making is elsewhere there have been decisions involving tax rulings about manufacturing of electricity. Is that correct?
I think I prefer to let our counsel answer that type of question.
So you can't answer that one. Is that fair enough?
I think you'd prefer our counsel to.
I think that's a statement that I won't allow. If you want counsel to answer that question specifically, then I think that should be afforded to him.
Okay.
So if that's a question for them, then we need to allow that.
So tell me this. From a background, are you an engineer?
I have a history degree. That's one reason I don't want to answer questions about the law.
And that's why I was asking you that. Well, those that don't know history sometimes are doomed to repeat it. That's why we're here tonight. But in terms of the problems that we're talking about here, from an engineering point of view, then you had nothing to do with engineering.
No, I'm the project manager responsible for the contents of the application. That includes extensive coordination with and management of our in-house design engineer, Reed Sellers, who's here, happy to answer questions, as well as a number of consulting engineers we've also got here to answer questions.
Who is Stonefield Solar LLC?
Stonefield Solar LLC is the entity that is responsible for the obligations that Stonefield Solar makes. And that entity, I think we submitted 36 developer commitments. It's responsible for all of those. It's responsible for compliance with HB4, which Ms. Muse talked about a little bit. Let me stop there.
Yes, sir. Who is it? Who are the principals of Stonefield LLC?
I actually don't know our corporate names, and we have people here who could tell you that. I know that our CEO and CFO are authorized representatives, can sign on behalf of it and can bind that entity to stand behind our obligations.
And who are they?
Brian Kunz and Nick Novograd.
Excuse me?
Our CEO is Brian Kunz. He's devoted
tonight?
He's not here, no.
Okay. And where is he from?
Brian Coons is also from St. Paul, Minnesota, actually.
Okay. And who is?
Nick Novograd is the other.
Is Stonefield LLC a Kentucky LLC, or is it some other state?
It's Delaware, like almost all LLCs. I do wish you'd asked if Mr. Novograd was here today, though, because I could have said yes.
In regards to a statement, I'll ask Ms. Muse about that. That's all I have.
Yes, okay. Thank you, sir. Okay.
I think anybody
Yeah. Ma'am, if you will, come forward and give me your name and address, please.
Hi, my name's April Hilsey. I live at 60 Farmers Road, Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
Okay. And who's your question for, please?
My question is for, I can't remember your name, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Aubrey Muse, 744 Brock Road, Rodneyville, Kentucky, 40162.
Thank you.
What evidence?
Face me if you would.
I'm sorry. Sorry, it's completely different.
I understand.
What evidence do you have that our group is not grassroots?
I personally attended a Hardin County Citizens for Responsible Solar training held in April 2022, where they were given a presentation by Susan Ralston, who is the founder of the Citizens for Responsible Solar, which is the national anti-solar group.
Can I comment to that?
No, you can.
But it's a lie.
You can. When you have the opportunity to present, you may present that fact then. All right. Anybody else have a question? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick.
Your name and address, please, sir.
Hello, Emory Martin, Elizabethtown, Kentucky, 257 Airview Drive. I've got a couple of questions for the guy there in the wheelchair. I'm not a stranger to this proposed zoning change. I know almost every one of these people. How tall is your proposed screening going to be?
I'd like to call up the folks who worked on the landscape plan. We can also bring that up to reference it. I think that was the rules we agreed to, right? Excellent. Josh Adams, can you come up and bring the landscape plan? So Josh can introduce himself.
And I'm going to allow his questioning, but I really need people to stay focused on the zone change because we're kind of entering into the development type stuff that the zone change has to be passed first. So, but I do want to, your question you're here, and I want to entertain that.
I only ask it now because it was mentioned earlier on.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Josh Adams, 9200 Shelbyville Road, Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sir, your question again, please.
How tall is the proposed greening going to be alongside of Highway 62 and 222?
At planting or at
At planting.
Between 5 and 6 feet tall.
And, there's a lot of that road down there, that the road is 12 feet higher than the fields. So that's not going to screen anything.
Again, questions?
Yes. So my question would be, would you be willing to plant some trees that's going to actually screen something from the road view?
We plant trees at 5 to 6 feet tall because it's the best survivability for them. I can let Rick answer if he wants to plant higher. I'd just like to mention in the landscape plan we've entered into the record, if I can answer the question as well.
We're kind of going off into the development plan area that I kind of would rather stay away from that right now. I'd rather stay within the zone change if I could.
On that zone change.
Right.
The other questions that I had was, like on the 174 usable acres that the state that he needs, I was going to ask that couldn't the Rucker landfill out on Rucker Lane, the old landfill, couldn't that be a better use of that land out there instead of the useful farmland out on Highway Highway 62. That was going to be a question. Is now the appropriate time for that?
I'm happy to answer the question. Sorry, can you say it one more time?
Yes. You state that you only need 174 acres of actual useful land that you're going to use. You're asking for 1,030 acres of land, and you're only going to use 174 acres of it. Hardin County has an old landfill out there on Rucker Lane that I'm sure has 1,000 acres of useful land that is not prime farmland or buildable homestead land on that you could turn into
I'm not sure that he should opine on use of other people's land.
Right. I tend to agree. A good question, but really not germane to what we're doing right now.
Next question. I was going to ask an issue about earlier he mentioned an issue of, she mentioned an issue about slave labor producing the solar panels, and that they were going to come from a region of China that doesn't use slave labor. It seems like that would, my question is, would that be gotten around by using, not that China would use phony documents to get around that or anything, but do you think that would be possible that China might use phony documents to get around slave labor?
Okay, you can answer.
The UFLPA, the law that was passed, I need to repeat, Auburn View, 744 Brock Road, Bridingville, Kentucky, Port 160.
We're all going to get to know your name, trust me.
Thank you. The law was referred to, the UFLPA passed in December 2021. That is followed through on by U.S. Borders and Customs. I don't think I should opine on their practices.
Basically, to the best of their understanding, what she says is...
Also, my next question is, and it's a little bit lengthy, over the next 40 years of the lifespan of this project, most of us in this room are going to be dead, unfortunately, if we live out our normal age, because most of us are already in our 40s or 50s now. So, over that next 40 years, is your company going to remain in the same ownership that it's in now? Or could it possibly change ownership several times? Or are you willing to enter into an agreement that it's not going to change ownership? Because if it were to, the agreements that you make with us here tonight could become null and void, and the company you sold to could file bankruptcy, and then in 40 years, the cleanup of that solar farm could land on the laps of our children and whoever is in physical government then.
So the question is, right, I think you can...
Understood, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's why Stonefield Solar is so important. Stonefield Solar LLC. The agreements that Stonefield Solar LLC will not become null and void. They will be binding through the life of the project. That includes the commitment Stonefield Solar LLC has made with the Drew Augenstein and the Buchanan family, the Knight family, and the Waugh family. I don't know if the laws have gotten off work yet. Doesn't look like it. So that's one layer of protection and set of binding commitments that Stonefield Solar has made. There's another one that we're making to the county. There's another layer of protection in House Bill 4 that, as Ms. Mees mentioned, was just strengthened a couple of months ago. So Stonefield Solar LLC is the vehicle for those commitments to remain binding. Now, as to the ownership of Stonefield Solar LLC, we are development experts at Candela Renewables. Our team has been responsible for the development of about 40 solar power plants that are currently operating around this country today. We partner with a company called Naturgy. They've been around for a long time. They were started in a year that starts with 18. I don't know exactly what the year is. They've operated for over 50 years. Power plants, coal, nuclear, gas, wind, solar on continents around the world. They're a premier partner. We're proud to work with them. We trust them. And just like us, they're committed to follow through on the binding obligations that Stonefield Solar LLC has made to a number of parties.
All right. And one of my last questions is, on the issue you mentioned of glare, you said you've done a glare soon as you leave the ground, it's going to meet with a lot of glare coming up into the cockpits right there. So I want to know what kind of studies you've done off that.
We're committed to safe operations. We've studied that exact topic. I'd like to ask Louis DeRosa, or Josh Adams, actually, sorry, to come up. You know him. He did the glare study.
Josh Adams, 9200 Shelbyville Road, Louisville, Kentucky.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, we conducted an FAA-approved glare study that included not only the Addington Regional Airport, but several other smaller airports and the helicopter pads at the hospital here in town. That study, which is FAA-approved, showed that there would be minimal effects to the surrounding airports, including none to the Addington field. None.
I would just add as a point of verification, that's in the record of our application.
Okay.
And my last question is on the remediation and reclamation of the land back to farm use. When a tornado comes through here, and it will, and hits that 1,000 acres and wipes out 40-50% of your panels, and it dumps some contaminants into the soil, what's then going to happen to that soil when this project is over and it's supposed to go back to farmland? And that's my final question.
Thanks. Appreciate the concern. For the soil, we share it. Regarding tornadoes, these panels are designed to withstand the elements for decades. We buy panels that meet quality ratings so that we can trust that they're going to keep working and help us get a return on the investment that we put in. They're also anchored into the ground via many steel posts. So the first sort of layer of security is these posts are intended to keep these panels in the ground. The second layer of security is that the panels are hardy. They're tempered safety glass. They're designed not to break. The third layer of security, even in the rare event, and I understand there's more tornadoes here than ever, even in the rare event that they come out of the ground and they break, that's what the T-clip test that Ms. Means referred to is for. It demonstrates that under extreme conditions, under extreme duress, when ground into small pieces and bathed in acid baths designed to promote leaching, they do not leach toxic chemicals. And so even if they come out of the ground and they break, the soil will be fine. We'll clean them up, but toxic chemicals won't leach. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
And that's the panel or the platform that holds it?
I'm referring to the panels.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Right. Now, are there also people at the door that want questions? Okay. After this, bring one of them in and let's see if we can look at those as well. Okay? All right.
Hello,
Please.
Trina Martin, 34 South Black Branch Road, Cecilia, Kentucky. I heard someone mention that you guys were going to be good neighbors. Has anybody coordinated with the responding fire departments with training or equipment that may be necessary?
Trina, face me, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is face forward. Yeah, we did attend on April 10th a meeting of the local Volunteer Fire Department Chiefs Association.
Okay, that was the Chiefs Association, but what about the responding fire departments?
So that's what's so important. The responding fire departments, I believe the commission suggested it would be 86 or Stevensburg. What we heard clearly from the folks in the room on April 10th was, no, you all need to coordinate with not only 86 or Stevensburg, but also Glendale, because this is going to be a facility that's located sort of where all those three regions come together. So we committed to doing that. We took information down. We've also engaged a group called Health and Safety Sciences out of Louisville. They've got a team of experts here tonight. They are in charge of developing our emergency response plan and conducting that outreach to the local departments.
So you haven't actually spoke with the department and found out what their needs and what they, as far as equipment training or expansion to where they can house any equipment?
We showed up on April 10th to start that discussion, introduce ourselves, and
So you said you started, but you haven't actually asked those specific questions of them?
I did start. There's a lot more to do. We are.
He's dodging the question. He's not asked.
I would like to.
At least let him finish his answer, please.
So I've actually never been in a hearing like this in this room. Don't have the whole thing super practiced, but I will just add that we are required by the county. One of the developer commitments we have provided to the county that is binding upon us is to coordinate the development of that emergency response plan with the relevant local fire department. We added the other two local fire departments. We commit to this. We will do this. It will be in place by start of construction. It is not in place now. It's in development.
But when you're making a request like this from the county, shouldn't that be something that's done for them to consider whenever they're trying to approve you?
I'm not going to opine on the timing of when the county asks us to have that plan done.
Thank you.
Your name and address, please, sir?
Yes, sir. My name's Garrett Swift. I live at 532 Gates Road, Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
I'm Swift.
Swift, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. And I'm also the nephew of the individual that you claimed to speak with in 2019 for Swift Farms. So you look at the area on the side of the WK, the little triangle right there that you guys are not developing because he didn't let you. I would like to know the reason why he told you that he didn't want to do that. If you could reiterate.
Okay, I'm confused on the question.
Is that right?
Okay, so my question is you claim
towards me, please.
He claimed to have he spoke with this individual in 2019.
Okay.
He used it in your presentation. I would just like him to answer why my uncle decided to not go through with the project that they proposed.
Okay.
There's a lot of questions there. First, can you tell me which individual you're referring to?
His name is Greg Swift.
I don't know who that is. I don't believe I've spoken with him.
Well, that's what you said.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Swift. Did you see your area that you're speaking of anywhere on the maps that were presented here tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Adam, can you pull up a vicinity map? And maybe that will help.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Was it on their department or?
It was on their power.
Yeah. Slide. Yeah, can I go back? Thanks, thank you.
Does that show you anything, Mr. Swift?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So that little triangle leading out to the WK, it's right there at the top left. That's the individual that you spoke with, correct? And you said that they were involved with the project in 2019 and they decided not to do it.
I got to tell you, I'm confused. I don't know what you're talking about, and I need you to refresh my memory on. You do know?
Okay.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, we're talking about the triangle at 222 and 62.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, I'm with you.
So I would like to know why that individual told you that they did not want to go through with the solar project.
That land, so I don't, that land's not part of the solar project.
Point here, he's number one asking for hearsay. Number two, I'm not sure that he should be divulging the conversation with someone else.
I tend to agree.
So I'm not asking for hearsay. My uncle's in bad health. He's not here to represent.
Okay.
I have to say that unfortunately, if you want to represent someone else and some reported power of attorney by law, it's got to be represented by.
Okay, well, I'll just leave it at this then.
I mean, you could comment as part of the public if they give a statement.
Yes, sir.
At that time. As a citizen of Hardin County, you can't speak or ask a question on your uncle's behalf now unless you're represented by counsel. That's Supreme Court statement.
We misrepresent nothing. We want the record to be very clear. Counsel may kill me, but the individual that I'm referring to, we're largely in contact with him because he farms the Buchanan ground. I think the Buchanans may be willing to share when they inform that individual of the solar lease that we were entering into and talk about those communications. I do want to be transparent here.
Okay.
Rules.
Well, I'd just like to go ahead and make the statement that they were in contact with our farms.
Okay. that's in the overflow room. Hang on one second. I need to get, there's several waiting in line. Okay, come on down. March is wrong. All right, ma'am, if you could give me your name and address, please.
Bobby Coleman, 327 Risling Court, Vine Grove, Kentucky.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if I'm going to repeat this because we couldn't hear out in the hallway. What does it affect in the soil after so many years, and will it be able to go back to the farmers?
There's a solar project, the first utility scale solar project done and this is an evidence to answer the question. We don't want you to take our word for it. We want you to know the facts, what's actually happened out there. So the first utility scale solar project done in the United States was outside Santa Margarita, California in the early 1980s, called Arco Solar. It was decommissioned in the early 90s, 1994. It went back into dry barley production until 2012, and my boss, James Cook, developed it for another solar project. So it is the case that agriculture can continue after utility scale solar farm is developed, constructed, and operated. We've also done soil tests of the project to establish a baseline, and we intend to comply with all the commitments that we made in our vegetation management plan. Those went above and beyond in terms of soil management, so that at the end of this time we can comply with our obligations to leave the Buchanan family and the Knight family productive and prime farmland.
Will you have to rezone that?
That's correct.
We're going to take a 10-minute break. So what time is it now? So at 5:32, we'll resume.
And I would just remind everybody, it's not appropriate right now to have discussions. So just we're just going to be recessed from watching the video.
6:45 or so. All right, let's go ahead and resume.
Yes. It's a legal question. That's actually not true. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Which part wasn't true, I guess?
So, it's the right to farm act in Kentucky, which allows them to farm even if it's almost industrial.
Okay, you are correct. Thank you.
So several years back in Cecilia, I don't know the whole story, but they were core drilling and they hit a cave and there's some water under there. They put some red dye in there and...
Is this a question, ma'am?
5 hours later, it ended up into the White Mills Water Department. How can you guys guarantee you're not going to hurt our water supply or our food supply?
We are interested in getting that right. We've done a lot of research. Reed, are you the right person to come up and talk about this? So Reed Sellers, project design engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Reed Sellers, 2525 Arapahoe Avenue, Boulder, Colorado. We've done extensive surveys to determine where natural resources are on the project. Those natural resources include karst features like sinkholes. They also include wetlands and streams. We've taken great measures to avoid critical natural resources. We've also taken great measures to protect natural resources near the project. We use industry-accepted methods called best management practices to protect those during construction. That avoids sediment or anything like that from entering into the sinkhole. And then, as has already been mentioned, the components of the project are safe. They don't leach. There is no concerns of toxic materials getting into the water. Beyond that, after construction, we have an extensive vegetation management plan that will improve the water quality and ensure that water that moves through the project and that may enter a natural resource is highly filtered and free of sediment.
So you say it doesn't leach. What if one breaks the chemicals inside the solar panel? What happens when it goes to the soil and then goes to our food and our water?
Yeah, I think that's a question for Louis DeRosa.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Louis DeRosa, 855 Lincoln Way, San Francisco, California.
Okay, thank you, Louis.
These solar panels have been extensively tested for leaching. As my colleague Aubrey mentioned, they're subject to the EPA T-clip test where they're ground up very finely and subjected to acidic conditions, which are supposed to promote leaching. Those studies show that these panels do not leach and are non-toxic. Furthermore, if you take the materials within these panels separately and just put them in the soil, they don't move through the soil. They're non-soluble. They bind. They're not soluble. They don't move with water. They don't react to the environmental conditions in the soil.
So you're saying if we have a big hailstorm or a tornado come through, break them all to pieces, all the chemicals that are inside that solar is not going to affect the ground and the water and the food?
Correct, yes. There actually aren't a significant number of chemicals in the panels. The panels are 80% aluminum and glass. There's a little bit of adhesive. There's some solder like in normal household electronics, and there's the semiconductor layer. That semiconductor layer is inert, insoluble, and non-toxic.
Okay.
So...
face me, please, ma'am. Ma'am, please face me. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
When it's time to get rid of these solar panels, will they go into our landfills?
So, as we mentioned before, based on the T-clip test, these panels are non-hazardous waste. They legally could go into landfill, but that's not the intention. As we've identified, there are several recycling companies based here in the U.S. that are recycling panels today. All of the materials in these panels, including the semiconductor layer, the aluminum, the glass, those are all recyclable materials that have value, and we anticipate that those will be recycled.
30 years is a long time. What if you go bankrupt? Who's going to take care of it then?
So once again, the project commitments here require posting of a decommissioning bond that covers the cost of decommissioning for this project in full. That will exist regardless of whether the company also exists or goes bankrupt.
One last thing, why don't you guys focus on top of the buildings and not on the ground?
Do you guys want to sit? I love solar. I think it should be on rooftops. I'd love to put it on my place when the budget allows. That said, it's 3 times as expensive to generate every unit of electricity from rooftop solar panels compared to ground-mounted solar panels. Those of us who are concerned about cost of electricity see a clear benefit in utility scale solar, which is a competitive generation source. So at the end of the day, I think all the above, the landfill, the rooftops, but it is more expensive to do it in places that are not flat and open like this, and that don't allow purchasing at scale.
I think it'd be safer. Now, to be fair, everybody was asked how many are for the solar panels. I'd like to ask how many are against it.
I can't allow that, ma'am. That's not a question. So, all right, somebody else from the other room? Yes. Yes.
Both of these gentlemen are experts in this area. Can they have a couple of seconds to establish their credentials?
That's a good idea. Okay, probably is a good idea, but...
They only need a few seconds.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yes.
Again, Louis DeRosa, 855 Lincoln Way, San Francisco, California. I have a master's degree in civil and environmental engineering from Stanford University. I'm a professionally registered engineer, and I have about 10 years of experience in the development and construction of utility scale solar.
Thank you. Sir.
My name is Reed Settlers, 2525 Arapahoe Avenue, Boulder, Colorado. I have a bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering from Purdue University, about 7 years of experience in development design of solar projects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Sir. And then we're going to get 2 more from outside after this. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Paul Brantingham, and I live at 148 Deerbrook Lane, Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
Thank you, Paul. Please.
And my question...
towards me, please.
Chairman Hinton, as you have said several times this evening, this is a map amendment for a zoning change, and we're not dealing with the development plan in this portion. Correct. And I would really ask you, in this,
Mr. Brandon, face me. Just face me. That way it's not so green. So just face me.
Face you. Okay.
Yes, please.
You can hear me, okay? Can't
yes, sir.
Okay. Your presentation of these solar panels, you could be here presenting a plan for another Blue Oval SK, could you not?
I don't know. I don't think I could.
In other words, my question is, we're dealing with a zone change, not the development plan.
You are correct.
And most of the discussion here this evening that you presented has been about a development plan and about all the attributes of solar. What I'm asking is, in this particular situation, you could be asking for any numerous types of zone, right? Any uses of that. But when you leave at the end of this vote right now, it is going to be zoned industrial. That's what you're asking for, is it not?
That is what we're asking for.
Yes. And at the end of that, you could walk out this room, couldn't you?
I hope I do. But no, I think I understand the concern.
Chairman Hinton, what my question is very relevant. It's very pertinent because this is, I'm asking questions about a zone change.
You are correct.
I'm not asking questions about solar. Okay, are we clear on that? Okay. When your corporation, this limited liability corporation, it is a limited liability corporation, isn't it?
That's exactly what LLC means. Yes, I think it's a...
Your limited liability corporation, I don't care what do we care? Should we care what you do? If we give you a industrial zone tonight, if that's granted to you, there's anything, you could do anything you want with that, couldn't you? As soon as that vote is made, you actually could do anything you want with that plan that fits within Adam King's parameters
present a development plan, we cannot do anything but what we have surveyed, designed, engineered, submitted, and committed to in our development plan.
But won't that be part of the development plan?
Okay, yes.
More about process, maybe?
Well, I think what he's getting at is he's saying that this is a zone change meeting first. Within the zones, there are permitted uses. We're not talking about solar right now specifically. We are talking about a zone change. So I believe what you're getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that theoretically he could walk out here and put a sexually oriented business. Is that where you're going with this, I assume?
Yes, and I'd like to ask
not necessarily that
just colloquially, as common knowledge,
right.
what is the investment of Blue Oval SK in Glendale? You had that up on the screen. You're alluding to that industrial site. What is the actual, what's the colloquial or common knowledge investment that's going into that? How many dollars? $1 million?
Mr. Branham, I don't know that's it.
Well, he's talking about getting a zone change to industrial of an area that's very similar in size to the Blue Oval SK site.
Right.
Okay. If he cannot answer that, I'll supply that information.
I need questions.
It's about $5 billion.
Right. Well, I need questions.
Okay. And the next question then is, how many millions of dollars of will this cost? What is the total amount of money that you're going to invest in if you get a development plan approved?
There are a number of questions there. To the concern about, I think, us coming in with a solar development plan and building a battery factory, that would be very difficult for us to comply with our obligations to our landowners to return their land to its current condition.
What is the cost that you're going to be investing in that?
Okay, Mr. Branham, I'm going to stop here. I understand where you're going with this, but I don't think this is the appropriate time for that. Can you hang on to those thoughts till you actually have the opportunity to speak in opposition to?
Well, can I? No, I'm not. One more question.
Okay, ask your question.
Okay. This is a map amendment.
Correct.
And this is a zone change. I'm twice past president of the Home Builders Association. And it's now currently zoned R2. For the interest of the citizens of Hardin County, do you think that it would be an improvement for us to take our R2 zone ground, 1,200 acres in a very prime corridor, and convert that to industrial?
I think that would be a question for the Knights, the Buchanans, and the Laws, who've decided that what they want to do with the land is lease it for solar.
I have to finish my first point and last time, okay? Is it possible for you or the attorney, either one of you, is it possible for you within weeks, months, or years for this industrial use to be converted to another use other than this solar use?
Part of that original question, I think, was about the $5 billion. I think that's probably 50 times what we'd have the capacity to invest into this project. We're not for. In addition to that, I wanted to answer that other question you asked so much that I forgot. Your most recent one, I apologize.
Okay, his question was zoned R2 right now, which is where I do my work.
Sure, okay.
Okay, and it's where most of the people in this audience live. They live in R2 zoned areas. And people that are moving to this area, do you think it's actually advantageous for us to lose our prime R2 zone for an industrial area that's tantamount to the size of Blue Oval SK?
The Buchanans and the Knights and the Wasp property represents less than 1% of cropland in the county, and I think much less than 1% of all farmland in the county. I don't know that all farmland is zoned rural residential, but I think by default that is what happened at one time. So I think this is a small impact, and I'll stop there.
Okay. The second, and you said it was a little confusing, so I'll go back. What length of time, in weeks, months, or year, in just a matter of 4 years, would you be able to convert this use from solar into any of the other 12?
extensive conversations with the planning staff over a number of years, as Mr. Dutton detailed.
Well, we're not on the development end, we're just on the map amendment.
And that's been very much part of these discussions. And so the reason I bring it up is we want to do a solar plant. We don't want it to be derailed by the concern about us pulling a fast one and building something else. That's not the intention. We want to figure out how to make a credible commitment that that's not what's going to happen. That is the rationale behind the developer commitments that have been submitted that I understand would be recorded as part of the land use certificate. Any other questions about this? I think Mr. King may be able to opine on better than me, but that's what we've done in that regard.
Mr. Chairman, I believe he has not answered my question. My question is, can they revert this to multiple varieties? Could the applicant turn it into?
I think I can probably answer it. Once the zone change, if it has been approved, if they decommission, that zone is still in place. So at that point in time, they can choose to do whatever they want with that land. If that's the question that you're asking.
That's it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, now, okay, hang on just a second. I want to get two more people from the back room, and then we're going to have to take a break. We've been going at this for 2 hours, and my commissioners are looking at me.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
can I just clarify one thing?
Yes, please.
So Mr. King testified that there could be a sexually oriented business on this property. There are lots of other uses that could be made on this property. So I would just like to object to Mr. King in introducing sort of very cherry-picked evidence into this proceeding. There's a wide array of things, just as any industrially zoned
they can use. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. You should have a microphone somewhere in front of you. If you will use that, please.
I think it's over here. Is it? Yeah, it's on.
Okay, your name, please, and
My name is Teresa Redmond, Redmond, 8145 Litchfield Road, Cecilia, Kentucky. I live right in the middle of the heat of all this mess, and my main question is, he says there's no contaminants, but I know for a fact there is. What is their process, and who do we contact? Because I noticed most of these young men and people here, they don't even live here. How would we contact someone? Because these fields, my house is surrounded by these fields, and I want to know, they get broke. I mean, who do I call? What do I do? I mean, I need to know there's cleanup, and I also have a well right in the middle of all this mess. I don't want to get sick. I'm old. I want to stay, keep getting older, and I just need to know the contact and the process. And I know there are contaminants in it. I don't care what they say, the research.
So is there a process in place for damaged panels? I mean, is there a process set so that the residents can make phone calls? Has that been in place, or is that part of the development plan that will be looked at later?
Yes, sir. We commit to a complaint resolution hotline.
Okay.
A hotline, which could be anybody. We pick up the phone, it's anybody. It's not one of these people who don't live here who are proposing this.
Right.
They all live in...
Question, please.
It's a local construction manager. I think typical practice, my brother works for one of these companies. They go around, introduce themselves to the neighbors, give out information about the hotline, and they're there to...
That's what he is.
Address concerns.
Okay.
I need one-on-one. I'm Native American. We like one-on-one. Pardon me if I don't. We have been contracting my people, so I need to know, who do we call?
All right, good question.
Okay.
They'll introduce themselves.
All right, one more from the back room, the overflow room.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. He should have the mic right there for you. Okay, your name and address, please, sir?
Charles Spivey, 114 Wellesley Court, Cecilia, Kentucky, Abersham, right around the corner. So my question is, who benefits from this, and how does this benefit Hardin County the best? You make the electricity, do you sell it back to us? Does it ship off to Frankfurt? Does it go to another state? Which is a better use of that land? If we turn it over to, say, homes, we get yearly taxes, that helps the county, that helps us. You sell electricity, goes wherever it goes. What part of that do we get? How does that help Hardin County move ahead?
Sorry, let's get the paper out to write down the questions. We'll take the last one first. How does it help Hardin County? Why are we here? We're here because of landowners who have decided this is the highest and best use of their land. We're here because of local utility companies who have published integrated resource plans for several years running, reviewed by the Kentucky Public Service Commission, in which they expressed interest in and commit to procuring solar electricity from multiple large-scale solar power plants per year for the foreseeable future. So that's all above my head, but the folks who decide how the grid should be managed have decided solar energy is the right thing, at least in part, for the future energy mix of the state. The regulators have looked at that and approved that. And so here we have the overlap between where the utility companies want power to feed all the growth that's going on locally, and where landowners want to use their land to do that. I think there were other questions I didn't address, so I want to talk to you.
What benefits Hardin County with you?
Financially.
Financially is one thing.
The Hardin County landowners?
Hardin County specifically.
Hardin County landowners make, I'm sorry, I apologize. Let me take a breath. I interrupted you.
That's fine. Hardin County specifically, what benefits does it have for Hardin County?
Hardin County specifically benefits from landowners being able to do what they want to do with their land and receiving constant, consistent, recurring lease payments. In addition to that, the local electricity grid, which has a lot of new demand coming onto it, benefits from power being generated locally. I think there was part of the question about power getting sent to Frankfurt or something. Power goes onto the local grid infrastructure here. It's going to be used where the next sink is. This is the source where the next sink of it is going to be used. It's going to be used locally.
Is there a financial benefit to Hardin County?
Yes. I apologize. I didn't realize tax was part of the question. I'm happy to talk about that. So the project, as you all know, it's currently zoned rural residential. It's used for agriculture. Agriculture, as it should, I understand, has whatever tax rate it has. Were we to build this solar project in the first year of operations, 40 times as much property tax would be generated compared to a continuation of the current use. We're taxed more heavily than farmers, as it should be. I've got numbers back there about what specifically that number is. It's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars over the 40-year life of the project. I think the number is $5.8 million would be generated for the county.
Okay, thank you.
We've also made an offer to the county to work together to increase that revenue via a pilot agreement, payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay.
Would that cost us as citizens more money to cover what comes in? I got a question. I'm not formulating well in my head. I'm sorry.
You and me both.
Yeah. So basically what I'm really wanting to know is which zoning it to heavy industrial use will bring in X amount of money. Zoning it into, say, hey, selling off for houses. Yearly, which one's going to bring in more money? Houses? Which one's going to leave a longer-lasting memory for the people of Hardin County to have?
Okay. And that's, okay.
Understood. I'm not going to opine on longer-lasting memories. I think the Buchanan family has a lot of those associated with the land and their grandfather's farmhouse. But at the end of the day, it's their decision. They can do what they want to do with the land. I don't know the numbers on this versus housing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to take a break right now, just to get so everybody can stretch your legs, and we'll say 10 minutes, 15. Let's do 15 minutes. It's now 7:11. We'll come back at 7:26. And then I need to speak with you three. We're going to resume kind of where we left off. So if everybody can make their way to their seats, please. Okay, were there any more in the overflow room that had questions? Okay, yes ma'am, if you don't mind, come forward please. not to jinx anything, but at 7:27, our last meeting went to what? 12:30 the next day, so. All right, ma'am, if you don't mind, give me your name and address, and we'll begin, please.
Lucy Dunford, 219 Poplar Trace, Elizabethtown.
Okay.
I think we've gotten so far afield from the zoning that my question is about the zoning. So it has to be zoned industrial to put this in. That's one question. Okay. But solar is so different than industry. It's not going to pollute. It's not going to make a lot of noise. It's not going to pollute the water or the ground. It's going to help save the earth. So besides the controversy of whether it should be housing or industrial, how can you justify these? Not the Buchanans. We know they know what they want to do with the land. But how do you justify with all these other people asking about their own backyard as compared to what good you will do if it's made industrial?
Regarding the folks' own backyard, I don't know if I'm allowed to flip back to this slide, but we have a list of how far away residences are from the project. I think it's on the Buchanan, the Knight, and the Wall property, pretty heavily screened and insulated from other folks' backyard. Remind me what comes next.
So everybody's worried. I mean, that's what I've heard here, to zone it industrial or to keep it as it is. And so my question is, they're worried about their backyard, but you're coming with something so new and so different and so unexperienced for most people. How can you justify changing this to industrial?
I see. I apologize. No, it's a good question. People have every right to ask all of this. And the good news is the facts support a lot of the great attributes of solar that we've talked about. Regarding, I think the question is why we are seeking a zone change to industrial primarily, right? And that's how the county's comp plan and ordinances, as I understand it, are written.
But you're not really, a lot of people have raised the question that you're not going to build a factory. You're not going to run red dye in the water, or anything else. So how do other places handle this? Is there a subset that isn't industrial because you're not going to be polluting or doing any of this other stuff, or are you usually industrial?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it depends on what different states and what different counties want to do. I think there are a lot of operating solar plants that are zoned industrial. There are a lot that are zoned ag. There are a lot that are zoned utility. I think it depends on the local jurisdiction's approach to it.
Is there any way that our county could consider zoning it utility and not industrial, so later on it wouldn't have to be industrial when it went back to the...
Well, that's something that I assume that the comp plan coming up will address. But right now there is no listed use for solar in our comp plan.
Okay. We're in
our zoning market.
We're in a change vortex. Okay. We're not ready for it, and we don't know what to do. But thank you for your information. Okay. Thanks for your question.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Patrick Logan, 777 Cecilia Smith Mill Road, Cecilia, Kentucky.
All right, thank you, sir.
Is it on, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, just hold it as close as you can, sir, so I can hear.
Is there any of this property in your zoning change? Does any of it do y'all own?
We don't own any of it yet, no.
So what about the property, Lot 1, Russell Ridge Estates on Cecilia Smith Mill Road, 15 acres that y'all bought?
Oh, that's not part of this property. We did buy that one, I think in
stationary.
Okay,
No.
What's your purpose of that? Anything?
We bought that land when it went up for auction. It provides a number of options in terms of how to get to the local electric grid. We will not build a substation on it.
Reason I'm asking, because I joined it, it's the reason I'm asking.
Did you buy that land and build that house right next to it? Okay.
That's all I'm asking. That's what I was curious.
I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about what we can do with it together. There will be a substation there.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Any other questions? Okay, yes, sir, right there. Give me your name, please.
Eric Cook.
Okay, Eric, you don't mind holding that mic up as close as you can, please, sir. All right.
Eric Cook, 2168 Western School Road, Eastview.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
I'm a little different boat to a lot of the people in here. I'm a cattle farmer, and I water cattle off of well water. Okay. It's my understanding once this goes industrial, that at the end of the solar time, it's possible that anything could go on this site, right?
That is permitted within that zone, yes.
Okay. As somebody that uses well water, and in my home, the only source of water I have is a well. There is no county water. Some point down the road, whenever the solar farm is gone, and this ground is used for something else, industrial, do we know exactly where the underground streams are and what they feed into? And people in my boat, are we going to lose wells down the road? The solar, I've heard the solar people say that everything they're doing is safe. Okay, that's not my question. My question is to zoning. Do we know that beyond this, if something goes in there, is the water supply going to be safe? I grew up in the Stevensburg area. There's sinkholes everywhere and there's underground streams everywhere. And I'm wanting to know, I want you all to consider that as part of this, because as a cattle farmer, I intend on keeping raising cattle, and you can't water cattle off of public water source.
Right.
It's not.
I think to answer your question, yes, if in 40 years they dissolve their company and they take everything away, something could go there differently, but again, they would have to present a development plan. All that would have to go through the processes to where we would protect your water.
And Rick, if I could.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that development plan.
So again, because we keep getting this question, so again, the request this evening is for the I-2 zone, for the zone change. That's where we're at in tonight's meeting. If that request is to approve, Stonefield's here at the table with a lease with the property owners to do a solar project as a manufacturing use. Obviously, with them just being a leasee and there being a property owner, the property owner would ultimately regulate which of these activities could occur, but all the activities there on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see what are permitted uses, conditional uses, and accessory uses within that I-2 zone. So again, automobile manufacturing, a contractor's equipment yard, an educational institution, a research lab, tractor trailer parking and storage, warehousing, welding shop, other activities such as an airport, a dog kennel, a child care center, a convenience store would be conditional uses within that zone. Any of these uses, anything in an I-2 zone is going to require a development plan, a survey grade plan that has to be submitted to the planning for review and approval. some of these other uses there, conditional uses, would also require an additional public hearing. And at that time, it would go before the Board of Adjustment, a separate body, where they could put conditions on that activity. So yes, these other things could be done, but we're here about a zone change. And if the zone change is approved, we're here reviewing a development plan for Stonefield Solar as a manufacturing use.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Matthew Crane, 177 Crane Lane, Glendale, Kentucky. I'd like to first say that I'm at least a 5th generation farmer. I'm a 4th generation landowner on the same farm that my great-grandfather bought in 1917 in Glendale. First question, are you aware that only 3% of the world's land mass is arable farmland able to produce the crops that we need to eat? Are you aware that only 6% of that 3% of the world land is in the United States?
To the point of farmland being precious and rare, that is exactly the reason that some of our landowners are signing these solar leases to preserve their agricultural land.
Are you aware that on average we lose 2,000 acres a day in the United States to development? And that last year we lost 2 million acres.
Okay. I've heard various numbers. I believe it. I don't.
That's from the USDA. All right. You all say that, you can raise goats and sheep, I guess. We're not in a loss of, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We're not in a loss of goat meat, okay? So, if this land goes into solar, and they do actually bring in however many goats to take care of 1,000 acres, where are we going to market those goats? Because we have, the market is already there. It's not under production.
I get tongue-tied up here. I also think it's important when we talk about how many acres we lose daily or annually to development. Most of that is development that is not like solar because it's residential or it's commercial and it can't go back to ag. That's a fundamental difference between what we're talking about here. I truly believe that. In fact, we have, regarding the goats and the sheep, the goats, as I understand it, kind of eat the wires and are not a good fit, but sheep definitely are a great fit. Actually, the first large-scale use of the industry buzzword is agrivoltaic, so it's continued agriculture and it's photovoltaic power generation. The first large-scale use of that was on a project called Topaz. It was developed by my boss, who's here tonight. They started 10 years ago with like a couple hundred sheep. Now they're up to 6,000 or 8,000. We've engaged that company that managed that growth. They've been out here. They're certified range managers or grazing managers. They've looked at the land. They've taken forage samples. We are thoughtfully designing this project so that small ruminants and agricultural activities can continue on it. In fact, we've worked with a local partner to develop an agricultural initiative. It's 13 pages long right now. We can share more details of that, but I share your concerns, and we are trying to do everything within our power to basically make sure they don't come true and that agriculture continues on this land.
Okay, so you're saying sheep is the best fit. So are you aware that the only sheep farmer in Hardin County, which was in Cecilia, quit raising sheep last year and rented his ground out, and that prior to that there was no market and he barely got any money for the wool? So the sheep were being raised for meat because the only wool markets in the United States are in the Northwest.
Agreed. Important points. We're talking about hair sheep, not wool sheep, and one of the coolest things about this dual use stuff. Sorry. to address the commission. One of the coolest things about the dual use is income from a grazing contract. And so they're not paying us to graze our land, we're paying them to graze our land, and to ensure that we can reliably meet the commitments laid out in our vegetation management plan. So to the concern about the wool market, we've thought about this. We have designed an agricultural initiative that is aware of and in touch with local conditions. It doesn't rely on the wool market, and it does create a new revenue stream for what we hope to be a new small local agribusiness in the immediate area of this project.
Okay, so that's about all the questions I got for that part. I would like to address the cannons and fiscal, or the planning zone board. And this question is, I have hauled probably close to 700 ton of lime and rock myself for my own use this year. And I hauled it 14 miles from the quarry in Upton to my house in Glendale and our farmhouse. Do you want to know why I didn't haul it from 5.5 miles away in Vulcan Quarry off 62?
Okay, you're kind of veering off here.
The reason I didn't haul it from there is because that quarry went out of production last year. They shut that quarry down.
Okay, is this a question, sir?
Well, it was a question. I said, do you know why I didn't haul it? This goes with that being industrial. You're saying that the quarry was industrial and that this goes along with the industrial ground because of the quarry, but yet the quarry closed down.
I'm aware of that.
And there's thousands of tons a day coming out of quarries, the Upton quarry and the 434 quarry going to Blue Oak, when only 5.5 miles away was the closest quarry.
So your question is just, you just want to make sure that we understand that the quarry is closed?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I don't know if very many of you knew that.
It's not well.
Well, hang on.
It's idle down.
Okay.
I think the McKeown family can answer this based on their discussions with Vulcan. I'm aware that they've idled. I think that's happened in the past. I don't know that for sure, but that's all I can say about it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I had one more question.
Sure.
Wish I wrote it. All right. I can't think of it right now.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yep, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to reiterate in terms of the zoning request, even if this is zoned I-2, farming can still happen on this property, even if this project doesn't go forward. Under the law, it can be zoned commercial, industrial, just about anything, and you can still farm on this property.
You are correct. Thank you. Okay. No more questions? Okay. We still have how much time left for those wishing to speak in favor of? Approximately 15 minutes. Sir, did you have a question? I'm sorry, you were in the corner. Did you have a question, sir? No. Okay, in favor of? Okay, since there's no more questions, we've got approximately how much time left? 20 minutes left. They reserved 5.
Right. Okay.
All right, so we've got approximately 15 minutes left for those wishing to speak in favor of the proposed map amendment. So, sir, you are up, so come on up and and anybody in the overflow room that wishes to speak in favor of, now's the time to come forward to the door so we know that you're here.
Mr. Chairman, before we start that, is it possible for us to request that Mr. King share any more detail about the protections that would be in place, in 40 years, or if our development plan isn't approved, so folks can be confident in the protections that are in place?
There will be a degree of questioning that I have for Mr. King, and we can include that in that question.
Okay, I think that's an important point. I'd love to cover that.
I will make that a point of it.
Can I sit?
Yes, please. You're probably tired.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Sam Avery. I live at 795 Port Wooden Road in Upton, Kentucky.
Okay, Mr. Avery, thank you.
Yes, I live in Hart County, just down the road. I'm a former vice chair of the Hart County Planning Commission, so I've been through this sort of thing on a lesser scale a few times. I'm a retired solar installer, and I own property not far from this, on close to 62. I'm in favor of changing the zoning to industrial because I like the term industrial solar. I think this is industrial solar. It's not rooftop solar. It's not just for people who have good solar exposure. It's not just for people who have the money to put it on their own house. This is solar for everybody. This is utility scale industrial solar that we can all have, and we all are going to have it according to hundreds of scientists around the world. Thousands of scientists have come up with a statement to the fact that we all have to transition from carbon-based fuels to renewable energy such as solar. I also think that the term solar is not perhaps perfect because when we hear about industrial solar, we think, well, industrial, what does that mean? That means smokestacks. That means foul air. That means grime. It means traffic. It means noise. Solar doesn't have any of these. Okay, I'm speaking from experience here. But I like the term industrial solar because it lumps it in with other kinds of development, like roads and shopping centers and residential subdivisions and factories and so forth and so on. And I hope that the same scrutiny that we're applying now to solar development is applied to other forms of development. I hope, beyond hope, that someday this many people will show up for other types of development and scrutinize that development for toxicity, for recycling of components, and perhaps for decommissioning as well. Wouldn't it be nice if all forms of development and all manufactured products required recycling of the components that they use in the products that they made? What if McDonald's came here and wanted to develop, and we required them to come up with a decommissioning bond, which would require them to pay for returning that development back into agricultural land when it completed its usable life? Okay, so what I'm saying is we should do these things not just for solar, we should do these for all forms of development. But that's not why I'm here. What brought me here tonight is the fact that the air that we're all breathing in this room right now has 50% more carbon dioxide in it than it did before we started burning industrial scale coal and industrial natural gas and industrial petroleum. Every cubic inch of the Earth's atmosphere has half again as much carbon dioxide in it as it did before. We've changed the chemistry of the entire planetary system. Now, as you probably already know, when carbon dioxide goes into the atmosphere, it absorbs energy from the sun. It energizes the atmosphere. Now, we've had storms and we've had hurricanes, we've had tornadoes, we've had heat waves before. There's nothing new about that. But we're getting energized storms, energized tornadoes, energized hurricanes, energized heat waves because of the carbon dioxide we're putting in the air. And we're continuing to put in the air as long as we continue to burn coal and natural gas to produce our electricity. So what I'm trying to say here is that we have to find places for industrial scale solar energy. Now, they're not all good places. This place looks pretty good to me. Now, I don't know everything about it. I'm sure that you as planning commissioners can make a determination beyond what I would be capable of making. But I can tell you that if we're going to pass down the same level of civilization that we enjoy now to future generations, we're going to have to find places to produce industrial solar. And I think this is probably a pretty good one. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Avery, hang on. Unfortunately, by our rules, we need to ask if there's any questions for you, Commissioner, or anybody in attendance. Yes.
My name is April Hilsey. I live at 60 Farmers Road, Elizabethtown, Kentucky. My question is, crops on farmland, don't they take in carbon dioxide and expel oxygen? And aren't we in a shortage of farmland right now? Isn't food security important?
Okay.
This is happening all across our nation, not just here in Hardin County. That's it.
To the extent that these questions are going to be on behalf of the applicant, I'd like to put up one of our experts next week on the subject matter. I'll ask this gentleman, I have no idea his qualifications on this subject.
Okay.
I would like to make one statement before they do that, and that is, we should be preserving agricultural land. We should also be preserving agricultural weather. And irregularities in weather are cutting back on crop production. Thank you.
Okay. My only reservation with what you are asking is, again, do we need to consider within the zone change or within the development plan? He wants to have an expert on the... Right. So... Yes, speaking. Right.
Statements made, I think we're going to have questions, statements made, they have to be addressed to the parties speaking.
Right. So, to answer your question, hopefully within your 5 minutes you'll be able to, or if you choose to, in this next time, if you want to present that, or if the door opens in the form of a question, you may be able to do that then. So we've got 4 minutes.
Let me just clarify.
Yes.
I'm very pleased to see these people here speaking on behalf of the project. I very much appreciate their presence. They do not directly represent the project, obviously.
But that's why we have a public meeting. We want their input as well.
And I appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Your name, please?
My name is Tona Barkley. I live at 1860 Case Branch Road, Owington, Kentucky.
Okay.
And I'm here to speak in favor of the zone change. The reason I'm here, and I don't live in Hardin County, is that my daughter lives in Bardstown with my 3 grandchildren, and their father teaches at ECTC, and they are all in favor of this, and could not be here because of childcare.
Man, I thought we told someone else as well. If you want to speak on behalf of someone else, gotta be.
Okay, can I speak on behalf of myself?
Any case, don't live, do you live in Bardstown?
So you can't speak? Oh, no, I don't. All right.
You're taking your land on 62.
Yeah, I understand. Good evening.
Thank you.
Make a good decision.
Thank you. Yes, sir, your name, please. Now, you're speaking in favor of?
Well, I actually had a question for him because...
For Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Okay, we allowed those, so I guess we have to go back. So, Mr. Avery, if you don't mind, please, sir.
I think it needs to, I think we can do it, but I think to be clear about it is, who is the person directly at? Okay, got it.
Right.
When I ask a question, you got to come up.
Right, we were kind of interrupted.
I did come up.
Right, okay. Mr. Avery, if you don't mind, come back up. And I hate to do this to you, but we were kind of interrupted and kind of means midstream there, so. Okay, what's your question, please, sir?
Matthew Crane, 177 Crane Lane, Glendale, Kentucky.
Thank you.
First, I do want to say that I was just told by someone in another room that they cannot hear you all because you're not speaking into your mics.
Okay.
All right. My question is, you talked about the CO2 levels in the atmosphere. And that you you needed, that we need agricultural land. So do you realize that when they put industrial panels on, or solar panels on the land, and they put grass underneath it, that an acre of grass only sequesters like 900 tons of CO2 versus an acre of corn, which sequesters 35,000 tons.
Is this okay? Yeah. Okay. That's a good point, and I think when we come up with ways to combine solar and agriculture, I think we're probably always going to sacrifice something on both ends. So I don't think there's a perfect solution there. But and it is true that plants absorb carbon dioxide. That's absolutely true, and that we depend on that. But the thing of it is that it's out of balance. Plants absorb carbon dioxide, we breathe it out. And there's always been a natural balance that was in effect for 10,000 years before the Industrial Revolution. But since then, in the last 150 years, because of burning coal and oil and natural gas, that balance has gone out of balance. So we're producing much more carbon dioxide than we're taking out of the air in the form of plants. But I think you're right, and I think we do have to find ways of using this land for agriculture and for solar both. And I don't know what kind of research is being done on that, but I think the numbers you come up with would be very useful to know that.
Okay, so another question along those lines. This is for everyone to understand that not every acre of ground, cropland or farmland, is equal. The farmland in the belt that is in the comprehensive plan to be designated as natural resource, Glendale through Cecilia, is the best ground that we have in Hardin County for farming, and that it produces more than ground in other parts of the county.
Do you have a question?
Yes. Do you realize that? So
I do that.
You say that we need to balance, and then we need to get that carbon dioxide balanced out. But why are we going to produce or take ground that can produce corn that we need for our food supply, that can sequester 35,000 tons per acre of carbon dioxide, and put it in grass that can only sequester 900 tons?
I think your point's
I agree. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Avery before I dismiss him? All right. Thank you, Mr. Avery. Mr. Avery, you can have a seat, please, sir.
I'm Jacqueline Carter-Gerard, 709 Pear Orchard Road, Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Raleigh.
I would like, from Mr. History, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Yeah, that's how I want to answer this question. Well, or whomever you...
Ma'am, this is statements in favor of, not necessarily questions right now. Do you have a statement in favor of?
I can do that as well.
Okay.
But it was a clarification that if they would answer, maybe would be in favor of.
Okay.
That's what I'd heard.
Okay. If you can make your statement, how much time?
All right.
8.5 minutes, but they want to reserve the last. Right. So please continue, Mr. Arnold.
Okay. I heard when I was investigating this prior to tonight that in terms of the improvements in Hardin County, there would be a number of jobs that would be coming with this, and that was not mentioned. And so I'd like that to be dealt with, because that was not mentioned. The other thing that I think needs to be dealt with, which can be in favor of, is where is this energy going to go? I live in a solar house. When I go out my house every day, do you know what I see? Unless it's summer and the leaves are covering, I see 100 solar panels standing up at my neighbor's house. So So I've lived with this. And in fact, in building a screened-in porch, and it's going to have some solar panels too. But that's what I want because I think we're missing some of the advantages.
We stop. I don't have to answer her question.
The time for questions is already done, so no. You may choose to do that again in your reserved time. And unless does somebody else wish to speak in favor of? Okay, we've got one more wanting to speak, or two more that I see. Now, let me just kind of inform the room. We've got how many minutes left? 7.5 minutes. Council has requested that we hold 5 minutes for them. So we've got 2.5 minutes for y'all to make your 7.5 minutes. Oh, it's still reserved. All right, I misunderstood.
This is actually clarification.
Okay.
I'm Jeff Richardson, 1455 Douglas Road in Pine Grove.
Yes, sir.
I'm actually not really wanting to talk. I'm in support of solar. I'm here to preach solar to the commissioners. I don't know jack about zoning, so I'm making sure I understand what's going on here. I want to talk about development, which is not really. So is there going to be a time for that?
There will be a time. If the zone change, yeah, we won't count this as
okay.
No, if this, again, just to clarify again, if the zone change passes,
yes,
then we will move on to the development plan.
Okay.
If it fails, then the meeting is closed.
Well, I don't want to use time then for zoning. It's not what I'm talking about.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to speak long, but I just want to say that I strongly support.
Can I have your name, please, and address?
I apologize. Nancy Gibbons. I live at 3086 Bunnell Crossing Road in Horse Cave, so in Hardin County. I also. Okay. Horse Cave. Is that?
Yeah, I think anybody can come speak. It's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
That's okay?
Go ahead.
Okay. And I just wanted to get on record that I strongly support the solar development. And I think so much of the scrutiny that has happened tonight, as Sam said, is we don't apply this type of scrutiny to something that is basically non-toxic. It's going to be a dual use. It can be returned to other uses. So I think it's a very good application. And I think we can't lose sight of the bigger picture. People have talked about agriculture, not losing agricultural land. But Sam made the point, and it's really an important point, that what we're doing to our atmosphere right now is really affecting our crop productivity and our ability to produce food. So we really have to pay attention to trying to curtail this problem that we've created for ourselves with this energized atmosphere. And we have been, all the research says we must transition away from fossil fuels. We must transition to renewable sources. This is the perfect time to do this, and it seems like a good site to do this.
Thank you.
Greg Augenstein, 1620 Griffith Avenue, Owensboro, Kentucky, 42301. I understand someone from the Hardin County School District is here, would like to speak in favor of the project. I'd like to ask them to come up, please.
John Smith, 98 Canary Drive, Elizabethtown, Kentucky. I am here on behalf of the Board of Education. I do just submit a point of order. I'm not here necessarily in support of a particular project. What I'm here to testify to is the school board has no opposition to being neighbor to a solar farm. We consider that an acceptable and a preferred neighbor. That's really what I'm here to state.
And how close proximity are you to the?
Gosh, I don't know if I have the answer to that question. I'm sure somebody here probably does.
The post-ban years to, for example, Cecilia Valley School is about 2006.
Okay. And the board also would like to recognize and acknowledge that there are several educational opportunities that would be available to our students to learn more about solar energy and different curriculum initiatives by being in proximity to a working solar farm as well.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
5 minutes left before we give 5 minutes. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of? Yes, sir.
Hello, Chairman. My name is Jason Galladay with Health and Safety Sciences, 3262 Rodrigo Parkway in Louisville, Kentucky. Would just like to speak to the earlier comment about us reaching out to the fire departments as part of our development of our ERP plan. That was done on April 10th with the volunteer fire chiefs. We received some good feedback, things that are in the plan now. We asked for some additional feedback, and we will definitely learn that we needed to work with the Glendale Fire Department as well. They weren't present at that meeting, but we know that we will be reaching out to them. And this project is approved, and as we move forward in the full creation of our draft into a full ERP plan, we will be seeking that input from the local fire departments of everyone in the response district as they all respond together as a part of automatic and mutual aid agreements. I'd just like to speak to that effect and put that in the record that, that effort has been made.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And Mr. Broderick, give me your name for the record.
Yeah, Broderick, 921 College Street, Bowling Green, Kentucky. Sir, did you specifically talk to the fire chief of the Stevenson Fire Department?
Yes.
All I was asking this gentleman a question.
There were approximately 20 chief representatives at the meeting. Stevensburg was one of them.
When Stevensburg, when I'm talking about that particular fire department, did you ever talk to the chief?
I can't say for sure that I spoke directly to him. We addressed them as a group and asked for feedback.
In the application, it says you talked to the fire department. Who is the?
Chairman, I understand the chief is actually in the back of the room. He may be better suited to answer this question.
I still have an opportunity to cross-examine.
He has the opportunity to cross-examine, then if he chooses to speak, he can. Go ahead.
When the application and it's before the commission says we talked to the fire department, who is the fire department that you talked to?
I didn't write the application. I would have to refer that to Rick Forever.
Did you talk to any fire department other than attending a meeting of the chiefs of April the 10th?
In what context are you asking?
In any context about safety, fire.
Are you asking me if I've spoken to other fire departments outside of that in relation to this project?
Yes, sir.
Not other than that night. No, we did not receive any further feedback.
Do you know whether the fire departments can adequately service this project as it's presented today?
Well, I think at this point it'd be pertinent for me to state a little bit more who I am. I'm a 28-year career firefighter, currently serving for a Metropolitan Fire Department as operations chief. This project does not raise any more concern in any city than any other infrastructure in place. Regular firefighting PPE and apparatus is all that is required. It is pertinent that fire departments understand the hazards, just like as in anything else in their responding district. And that is part of what Kendall has asked us to do. It's part of the Stonefield project, is move forward with this project, moves forward to do continuing training with the fire departments. That would include site visits throughout the project, all the way through to the completion of the project and how it will be under its operating state.
Currently, are there any training programs in the Commonwealth of Kentucky for firemen to treat solar panel fires?
I can't advise if there specifically are.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Time. Okay, there's 2 minutes and 20 seconds for anybody else wishing to speak in favor of before we allow the reserved 5 minutes. 3 minutes. Well, if we can't add up here, it seems to be 3 minutes and 20 seconds now, so. Seeing nobody, I'm going to go ahead and you can just use your reserve time now, and you've got 7.5 minutes left. If you finish early, we can open it up. Or 8.5 minutes. Oh, reserve to the end? Okay, you can reserve to the end, or you can use 2.5 minutes to do whatever you would like to do. 3.5 minutes, I'm sorry.
right now. First, to the point about the fire departments, that was an issue in January 2022 in this room. We were here. We've gone out of our way. We've done everything we can to understand concerns that might come up and to address them proactively. That's why we hired firefighters at Health and Safety Sciences to help. That's why we brought them to attend a meeting of the local Chiefs Association on April 10th. They were tough questions to answer because, as I understand it, the Stevensburg contingent got a call and had to go respond to it in the middle of that meeting. I am aware there may be some folks from Stevensburg here, potentially including the chief, just like to ask if that's true, and if those folks oppose the project.
Okay, and he would need to come forward and make his own statement. What's that?
Right now, we're taking statements.
Right, statements from you right now.
Okay.
If he chooses to make a statement, he may use whatever time's left to do that. So please continue.
Understood. My statement then is that we have understood the concern about this issue, hired experts to support us in resolving it, been proactive in going out and meeting people, getting contact information. This will all be reflected in the emergency management plan. I hope you found our presentation and our goodwill here to be credible. It is on this topic as well. I'll remind you that's in one of the developer commitments that we've proposed to be bound by, that emergency response plan, and how it is to be formulated. So, a couple other issues. Life cycle came up. There are great answers to that stuff. They're great questions. Everything needs to be evaluated on life cycle impact. We've got a number of studies that we can reference. Louis DeRosa here can talk about them. He knows them better than me. So I just want to state that there are good answers to those questions. Regarding jobs, we have an economic impact report. Is that one of the things I grabbed to come up here? Or is it there? There it is. And I have notes about it too. So the economic impact on Hardin County, in addition to the substantial tax revenue that we talked about earlier, 40 times as much property tax revenue in year one of operations, $5.8 million total in 40 years, and we've proposed a pilot agreement that would generate up to, I think, $7.8 million over the life of the project. In addition to all that, there are a number of economic benefits documented in the economic impact report we've submitted into the record. Bear with me while I find it. We submitted a lot. As I read these, you'll see why I didn't have them memorized. So the conclusion here is that during construction, there would be at least 209 new jobs during construction in Kentucky. At least 93 of those would be in Hardin County. That's full-time equivalents, so people who work 2,080 hours a year. Now, if they work 1,040 hours a year, the numbers would be double. There are substantial new economic benefits that are produced by this activity. So new earnings in Hardin County from on-site construction activities would be $5,916,000. You divide that by 93 full-time equivalents, you can get the wages. In addition to that, just a final note, there's a lot more documentation in this study. New economic output. Yeah.
You want 5 minutes?
Understood. I wanted you to cut me off. I don't want to take those last 5 minutes. It's in the record. Thank you.
Okay. And we do have that as part of the record, correct?
That is part of the record.
Is that part of the record? We have that as part of the record?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So that concludes 55 minutes of those wishing to speak in favor of. So now the floor will be opened up to those wishing to speak in opposition to.
All right. That concludes half of what we're getting ready to watch. So we've got the other half tomorrow. Just a note real quick before we adjourn. I did find the number, resolution number. It's 2023-008. That's Planning Commission resolution number. Okay, so I guess our agenda, our next item is to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second? Second. Okay, any objections?
I'll slap you if you do.
Hearing none, we are adjourned.